All
We
right,
got
all
plenty
right.
of singers for y'all if y'all dare to walk through our door.
I'm gonna send
Okay.
the IRS man through the door.
All right, well, we are broadcasting, y'all, and we're having fun back here. Welcome to our little green room with my green screen back there, too. Um, we're having a bit of fun here, but today is some serious stuff. The Pensado Awards are starting very soon. We probably got about a week and a half, a little less than 2 weeks before they come up. And I wanted to do this series to help everybody from my point of view and get everybody else's opinion from their point of view of how to best utilize this opportunity to improve your skills in mixing and even songwriting and creation. You can see what's in here and what's behind this song behind the scenes so that you can craft your stuff better. We're going to learn from the mistakes that are made in there. Well, I won't call them mistakes because the song is there, it's going and everything. But there's some challenges built into it, which is why my hat is actually off to Dave and all these guys for making this particular song available for to test people's skills of mixing, because this is really going to make you dig in. If you pay attention to get the best out of it, you'll see the kind of challenges that are, these are definitely not out of the ordinary challenges. They happen all the time. But the level that you have to go to raise your game to be competitive, it's built on details. And I am going to. We got Bill. Bill's here. He's going to go ahead and show some of the things that he did to tackle this thing. We all have checked it out at different various levels. I finally had. We had another hangout previously that if you didn't get a chance to see it, we did an overview, but we didn't get a chance to play the music. Today we're going to play the music and dig in. So Bill's going to show what he went to do. If anybody else wants to do that and has the ability to do it, I also have the track up, and I'm going to point out some basic things to tell you my thought process about the things that I'd be looking for and the things that I suspect that Dave Pensado and their whole group that's going to judge this. These things that are little detailed things that I think they're going to be looking for. So I'm going to try to point out as many as I can to you guys as we go along and do these hangouts over the next few well, like I said, we got about a week and a half left probably. So you want to join this because even if you're not going to be in the competition, you should download, act like you're going to be in it, download the files and study what we do here. It will improve your mixing skills. It will improve everything about what you do in engineering. It will improve your songwriting. So you want to be part of this just for the learning process. And this is something that, all of us are here, we're busy and we do different things, but we're trying to give to the community to help everybody do this. So, and we want you to get involved as well because you may make me come in, even though I've had experience or whatever, I can't think of everything. So I love hearing other people's thoughts because I'm like, I never thought about that. Then that way I keep growing as well. So we want participation. Today is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. So what you're going to learn first, we're going to have Bill come up and show some of the things he did from his point of view. Then for me, what I'm going to do is switch over and show you some of the things that I observe within this track. I'm going to take you back to the basics of what's going on in what we have in front of us with this track. Once you download it, there's some immediate things that I think that if you are aware of them, it'll make your approach to mixing this song, if you enter the contest, give you the best shot possible compared to most other people. I've checked out some of the mixes that other people have submitted as well, and they missed a few things. It's not everybody, but a few people. There's been like a common mistake that a lot of people miss. They dig in. So I want to help you avoid that pain and everything and give you the best shot. So with that being said, I'm gonna go over here and we got few people on. I have everybody that's on here right now, and people are going to be joining as we go. But go ahead and say what's up. We got Dave and Bill and Jim and Maad and anybody want to yell out and just say what's up to everybody before we dig in.
Hey,
Hey, what's
everybody.
happening?
We got Dave there. Go ahead. Who we got? We got Vladi. Are
Hey
you here?
guys,
Hey, what's up? I
I'm
see
waiting for
Elena. There
everybody.
goes Elena. Elena, you joining us? Hi. How you doing?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello,
Hello.
Elena.
Hey. Bill and Jim. Yeah, say what's up, man.
What's up?
Okay. Well, anyway, Bill, what we're going to do is switch over to you. Bill's going to share his screen with us. He's done some work on the song and called it up and everything. And like we're going to dig into some of the things that he did, and I'll do just like I did before too, because first of all, I want you guys to realize there's no right or wrong way to do it. Everybody has their own approach and how it affects them. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. So all I'm going to do, my role is basically going to be play devil's advocate on both sides. I'll be asking one question all the time. First of all, let's get into this. This is one question that's going to be my recurring theme, and you'll find this is what's going to be the most helpful thing. So I bust out the cards again. What is your why? Okay, that's so important. What is your why? You got to know what the why is on why you're doing everything that you do, because everything affects everything. So I'm going to constantly keep going back asking that question, why? You've got to understand why you are doing anything in there to get to that final thing. And so, like I said, I'll be playing devil's advocate and saying, okay, well, why is that being done? And then I think that's going to be one of the most helpful things. And that'll be the biggest takeaway that you'll have from this is the theme of keep asking yourself that for everything that you do. Okay, with that being said, we're going to go over and jump over to Bill. How you doing, my friend? And you're going to share your screen. So I see it up here.
Everything's going well. Are you seeing Logic?
We got Logic up here.
All right, what did you want to talk about?
So, since our last session, Bill, you had a chance to go ahead and dig into the track a bit, and none of us here expect it to be like a final perfect mix or anything like that. You're just going to do different things based on what you feel will help improve it and move it forward. So let's talk about these things, why you did them, and where you're trying to go and everything. And then like I said, you and I will just bat it back and forth to see, okay, you did this, it's interesting, well, why'd you do that? I'll dig in, and then you can explain to the people so that they can benefit from your thought process. Okay, sound good?
All right, yeah, sounds good.
Okay,
first of all, this over here, the H, that's your hide function, right? So the hide function
where are you at? I'm not seeing it on are you showing us something on Logic? I'm seeing Logic, but it's kind of small.
What do you mean it's small?
Well, when I say that, there's a lot of stuff on the screen. What are you pointing out right now, so I know where to look?
Up here, are you seeing my cursor where I'm spinning in a circle in the top left?
Top left.
You see the
okay, I see it now.
H?
Yeah, I see it. The Mac cursor's so small. Yeah. Okay,
yeah, sorry about that. All right.
Okay.
So in the top left, there's this brown H, right?
Okay,
if I hit that, it hides or unhides these. So all of these. Okay, you see this one here that says Tom's mono.
Mm-hmm.
You see Tom's left and Tom's right.
Yeah. He's down in the lower left corner now. His mouse is moving around. Just look for some movement, y'all, if it's too small to see.
Okay, so all these channels that are this color are gone. Mm-hmm. Tom's mono is not used at all. Room left and right is not used at all.
Okay.
Kirk 201 is not used at all. A bunch of these vocal tracks are not used at all. So what happens is, since they're not being used, they're being hidden. Which is, if you look at the green on the left side of the screen, you see that, Khaliq?
Yep, we can see it. So all those tracks that have that green are being hidden with the H.
Right,
hide.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's the hide track. So that's what this is. So then these disappear.
Okay.
So you still have a bunch of tracks left. Yeah. So anyway, so basically what's going on is we've got drums in green, bass in red, acoustic. There's an electric guitar pair, a second electric guitar pair. The Nord, which I actually over here just took out entirely. Let's see. The piano, which we discussed last time, which is left and right, plus seems to be an under mic and over mic. Piano 2, which happens in the beginning and the end of the track. And a bunch of vocal tracks, which I made into yellow for basically leads. This is lead in the verse and lead in the chorus, and then background vocals, and then there are extra vocals at the end, and that's these here. So all this stuff is leads, and then you got the backups, and then these are the end. So let me know if this is coming through. I've looped a section, which is the chorus right here. So I've looped that. Let me know if the vocals are coming through when I solo. All right, cool. So these are all of your individuals, and then they come down to this, which is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these 8 tracks are on my board in front of me right now. So if I wanted to make a particular mix of this, I would just do it on the So, what elements did you want to discuss?
Okay, so cool. What I think it'd be good for us to talk about is, first of all, where are you at in the process, and let's talk about how you got there, and why you got there, how you got there.
Okay, so the first thing I did, like I said, with this hide function, was I just deleted a bunch of the dirty, messy tracks. So basically I work from left to right, technically, even though I'll do drums first and then bass and then I'll do vocals.
Okay, well, before we move too fast too,
yeah.
So you deleted some tracks, so let's dig into my question. Why did you delete some tracks or hide
Let's see
them?
why. All right, so okay, first of all, they gave you Tom's Mono. Right. Well, I mean, I renamed it Tom's Mono. This track wasn't really doing anything for you. Let me find it. Tom's Mono. All right. Yeah, this is your rack tom, and basically your rack toms are a lot of. Well, let's just solo it. Or am I? So can you hear that there's like more snare than toms in there?
Okay, well, let's hear where the toms are. Go to that first spike, where the first big spike is, because that's probably where one of the tom hits are. To the left. Where that, yeah, that's it. Okay, and then go to that other one that's in front of that one. There's another one in front of that.
What, this?
Yeah, there's another big spike in front earlier in the song.
Oh, over here. Yep.
Yeah. No, farther back. Still right where your mouse. Yeah, there you go.
Farther back than this.
Yeah, no, that's the one. That's probably the first occurrence.
Well, I mean, they're here. I mean, basically everywhere you see a higher spike.
Of course,
it's
yeah.
a tom.
Yeah, no, I just want to hear them. So let's hear what we got, so other people can understand. Go back one more time, a little in front of that, Bill, where you were at. Go back.
Still in front of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got some toms there too then.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're not hearing any of that in what you did, right?
Yeah, none of it. This is out. It's all the way down. It's muted. What you're hearing is overheads left and
So that's just the overheads left and right, right?
right.
Okay, do me a favor. Go back and unmute that tom track that you muted, and let's hear all three of them together for a second.
All right.
Now mute it again. Now put it back in. Put it back in. Okay, cool. Stop for a second, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to talk about that real quick because, first of all, what did you ascertain from that exercise that we just now did?
Nothing.
Okay, let me point out something too, and like I said, and for everybody that's listening, we're exploring here. We're explorers right now, so there's no right and wrong decisions. You know, there may be a reason that'll make itself clear as we go through this thing for why Bill completely took that track out. But here's what I ascertained from that.
Khaliq, could I give it a shot real quick before you do?
Go ahead, man.
The when Bill put the track that he deleted, when he put it in, I heard the toms way better. The toms sounded like wimpy boxes or something.
Yeah.
When that track was not in, but then what comes to mind is, or question is, those snares and crash cymbals, everything else, like how much are they gonna be like?
Yeah, accent.
Are they gonna?
Yeah, that's the point. Exactly. The snare bleeds the same thing.
Okay.
So I didn't need the toms at all.
Now here, like I said, there's no right and wrong on this. It's all a decision making process. But the thing to as the takeaway when like I said, you ask these whys and then understand that everything you do has a consequence. So the consequence of completely deleting that track, because it's accomplishing several things that you want. You're getting rid of all the snares. You're getting rid of all the cymbal bleed that comes along with those being in there. The consequence is that you lose the resonance of the toms. The toms definitely sound much better when that track was in there compared to when it was muted. And so the attacks of the toms on the overhead track, you just hear them. You hear the little blip, 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 but they sound real thin and boxy and everything. And you got the other stuff. So that's the consequence that you have from taking it out. But at the same time, the other consequence is when you leave them in, then of course you got the snare coming out even louder because it's bleeding through everything else, including that. You got those cymbals, and we'll talk about those later because the cymbals are really very aggressive. However they were mic'd or whatever, and the sound of them, there's some issues that would need to be tamed within the mix. So all that comes. So the point that I'm making with this for somebody, because I looked at the same thing too, and So, and then I'll give you guys some alternative ways of thinking about it. You find your own approach, what works for you. Because Bill did decided to take that track out, and that's what I said later on. Because he made that decision, he may be fully aware of the consequence of why he did that, and may make up for it later on in the whole final track. What we'll do is, as we go through this, to see if that is there. But the consequence is you lost the beefiness and resonance of the toms by taking that track completely out. Now there might be a middle ground solution as well, to use parts of the track to give you that, and then still achieve what you were trying to do as far as cleaning things up. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach too. There's always combinations of things too. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah, it does. And you see how the snare looks exactly the same as the toms?
Right.
See how the toms ramp up like this and the snare ramps up like this?
Exactly.
It's the exact same bleed.
Yeah, it's the bleed, but see, what I want
Plus,
everybody
this
to
here
understand
is actually named rack tom. You see how this is named rack tom?
Right.
They didn't give us a floor tom.
Yeah,
So
but
they
there
didn't
are
give
floor
us a
toms
left
in there,
and
though.
right
See,
tom.
what you got to check out is there are floor toms in that kit. So what they might have done
Right,
is
but
had
they
a one
didn't
rack
give us
tom
that
mic.
mic as a file, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I understand. So this is what I'm trying to get you and everybody that's listening to this and checking us out and what we do. The decisions that you make have to be made with a lot of different little things together as one thing. See, because there are, even though you might have a single mono track that says rack, when we listen to it and just keep going back to our ears, which is always a thing, there's a whole drum kit in that one track that when it gets muted, you're losing floor toms, you're losing resonance, you're losing stretch. So there's a lot of consequences that come with taking that track out completely too. So that's what I'm trying to. So even though the waveforms look the same and look like it's covered, there's some things that aren't covered when it's gone. So you just have to be aware of that. And when you're aware of that, that can be the difference between somebody hearing one mix versus another mix and saying, okay, well, how come the drums? What happened to the drums or something like that? They might sound cleaner, but they might not have the beef and resonance. We should always look at a drum kit as a whole as opposed to the individual parts. That's always going to get the thing. Sometimes leakage is good. Many times you make leakage work for you. Many times something like that particular rack tom track, I've had to do that where we didn't have enough microphones. So I suspect that they just put one microphone in it, and the toms are kind of sharing. They might have put it in between two toms, or they might have put it in a medium place because there's a floor tom in there. Even though there's no floor tom named, I could hear a floor tom being hit, So to get all that within that whole track, it's very important to realize, okay, maybe they were limited in the way they could capture it. So what could I do? And so another alternative that can be done is that you can take that one single track and split out the individual elements. That's kind of like the in-between ground of taking it completely out as opposed to using the individual elements. A lot more work, it might mean going through that track and just going through and finding every occurrence of a floor tom that I'm hearing that's within these overheads is in this track somewhere, but it's so bleeded in because this one mic is sharing everybody. Maybe I need to cut that out. Maybe I need to duplicate this track 3 times, cut out and just get just the floor tom, cut out, get just the rack tom 1, rack tom 2, because it sounds to me like I think there's actually probably 2 rack toms and a floor tom on that one mic. I'm not sure because I haven't dug into that level, but if that's the case, that's exactly how I would approach it. Is I'd find the individual elements so that I could pull each one, have their own thing, process them, and still bring them back in to work with the whole track. That's the only reason, like I said, that's just my thought process. Yours is a whole different thing, so I'm going to let you continue on with it, but I just wanted to inject it because I think it's a good point because a lot of people are going to have a lot of ways they can go with this, so they need to have as much information as we can give them from all different directions. Does anybody else have any other points on that before we move on? Anybody else have any other
Hey
things that
guys.
might be helpful? Hey, who is this?
Hey, it's Andrew.
Andrew, what's up, man?
You pretty good, man. You guys all right?
Yeah, we're doing good, man. You want to chime in on this?
Cool. Yeah. What I do is I'd go and cut out all the individual toms on that track, and then have it quite low in the mix, and probably EQ top end off, and just have like fundamental frequencies of the toms, so they kind of support the overheads overall, and you're still getting some like, bottom and beef of the toms that you still need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole nother approach. So yeah, this is why I say, everybody that's listening, I want you guys to realize there's a lot of ways to go, and there's no one right way or wrong way. But if you at least are aware that there's several different ways you can go, you can put it in together. Now, as Bill leads us through for the things that he did, like I said, he may have made up for that later on in the track. So we haven't gotten that far yet. But I figured while we're here, I wanted to cover all. Here's the possibilities, because you can go left, you can go right, you can stay in the center, you can go any combination of them. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody, okay? Anybody else want to chime in on that before we because that's a great point, Andrew. That's definitely very viable. Anybody else want to chime in, or we're going to go ahead and let Bill continue?
Ansi, are you there? Ansi just came in.
I see Ansi. What's up?
I see his pictures, heavy metal screaming looking,
Yeah, we got you here, man. You got anything? Let's be sure your mic is working. We don't hear your mic.
Ansi does live drums all the time, metal and stuff. I was hoping that he'd be ready right now, but okay.
Yeah. Ansi, we don't have your mic. Did you do it in the settings in your settings on the Hangout? Don't have it. Don't have you. The settings, which is up top, you have to set that. Go to the top of the screen, and then there's a little gear that says settings, and you may have to make that recognize whatever you're bringing your mic in with.
Ansi, did I just hear you? I hear something from you, bro.
He's dropping in and out.
I'll be right back.
No, we still don't have you completely.
Fellas, as I was listening to that, I've heard about riding faders, on vocals and things, and on the toms, the proximity effect of a microphone is going to bring some deeper tone in there.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I would probably want to use that track, but then maybe automate the volume on it somehow to where as the it goes up in volume, and then when the cymbals start, I just drop it out.
Yeah, man, great points, great points. This is why I say this is very important to understand all the different things that you do, and there's ramifications for everything that is done. That's a great point too, because like Bill pointed out, like for example, the snare has that same ramp up leaked into its thing, and then all the other things, of course, the overheads got them and everything. All these things all together could be too much. So you might need to be able to, you could take bits and pieces of each one to still make the thing happen and give you the impact that you want, but not make it overly, make it overbearing and everything. So that's another great point, man. Automation can smooth out a lot of these things. Simple editing and drawing in a fade curve and things like that. There's a lot of ways that all that can be approached, What Andrew said, just separating all the different things out, EQing out and putting everything in its own little frequency range. This is what I would probably tend to do, is just kind of make everybody separate it out, duplicate the track as many times as I need to, pull out each individual element and make that element live where it needs to live and only appear when it needs to appear to support what's going on in the overheads, So great points here. We got John on here, but John, I don't know if you got your audio. We got and we got Vladdy and we got Mitchell on here. What's going on, guys? Anybody else want to chime in real quick?
Hey there. But you guys told everything that's to be told about the thing. So I guess, that's, to me, the automation thing. That's something I would do.
Cool. What's up, man? All right. I saw Mitchell thumbs up, and so, hey, Ansi, did you get your microphone going yet? Yeah, I don't think so, bro. Just keep working on it. It's got to be a settings issue.
Can you hear me?
Or yeah,
We got you now. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, give us a rundown, Ansi.
Yep, you already mixed it. Let us know what it is.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Well, we were talking about right now. What we were talking about is the toms, and then expand on how you approach dealing with that, what you got out of it, and if you already mixed this song, go ahead and chime in because, like I said, this is a whole
Oh, you mean
discussion to help
Pensado Awards
everybody.
song? The New York City song?
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that especially there was like a very big phase issues, especially with the overheads and rooms and.
I'm so glad you said that. I wondered if anybody was going to catch that. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
glad you said that.
because it was pretty obvious because it felt kind of uncomfortable. So what I did, because there was no floor tone, at least on the package that I downloaded, and so what I did was that I took the snare mic and then I took the parts where the floor tone was playing, put it on another track and processed it differently.
There you go. There you go. Very, very smart. Very clever. Anybody that's watching what we're doing here and what we're talking about now, these are all the different options that I was talking about. Because, you know, even if it isn't, you know, if you go and see, and like I said, I think they were kind of slick with picking this track and having all these issues. It's these little things that really make that big difference. When you have one track there and it seems like there's only one tom thing or whatever, then there's a lot of decisions that could be made. But when you go back to your ears and you're hearing, I'm hearing a floor tom. Wait a minute, you know, but I don't see one in the tracks they gave me. You know, I'm actually hearing a couple of different tones of toms here. Okay. A big decision, and that's part of it, is, well, where are they? I'm hearing it, you know, but where are they, and how can I get the most out of them, or do I need to get rid of them? All decisions in real time that have to be made. And see, what Ansi said is he went to the snare track and found that tom and pulled that out. Very, very clever. There's like I said, all roads lead to Rome. You know, there's 1,000 ways you can get there. So how you choose to do it, but being aware of it and thinking about what questions to ask and why are you doing certain things, you know. So very good, guys, very good. So what I'm going to do is return it back to Bill and let him continue on with this, and you know, we'll go ahead and keep going.
Well, yeah, cool. Yeah, I agree with what Khaliq was saying, is that pretty much this is art, first of all, and second of all, there are lots of ways to get to the sound that you want. Basically, what we're trying to do is get from point A to point B, what we're hearing now, to what we want to hear. So there's lots of ways to do that. And like Ansi just finished saying, which is what I said like 25 minutes ago, I used the snare, not the Tom's mono, to get that sound. So also, here you're seeing the equalizers, which are on the overheads left and overhead right, which I switched left and right because I'm mixing audience perspective. So audience perspective is with floor tom on the left and with rack tom on the right. Or if you have 3, it might be floor tom left, rack tom middle, rack tom right, whatever. In this case, for the floor tom, I picked 106 hertz, that's here, and for the rack tom, I picked 124. Which is here, because the rack tom is a higher pitch than that one is. So.
And what tracks are we talking about here, Bill?
The overheads.
The overhead tracks. Okay, got you.
Yeah, the overhead left and the overhead right.
Cool.
So, well, let's do this and this. All right, let's move over here, actually. Alright, so now I'm going to add the snare in here. So,
cool.
That's how I built mine. This was not involved at all. Now also another issue, as we talked about last time, was these room tracks. I didn't actually do it on this thing because I did a pickup from what we did last time to make this setup. But what I did when I actually did the mix was I took all of these and I just sent them to a reverb and I made my own room. So these rooms here, which are also deleted, sound like this. Actually, let's do this. And I moved over here to show that these are not clipping the 2-bus or anything. They just sound like that off. So that's another couple tracks I deleted. Those are gone. Then this over here, we have this Kirk 201. I'm guessing a 201 means the Space Echo 201. This is just really dirty.
And Bill, you can turn up the output of your DAW just a little bit.
Well, let's just say this is not useful, so I just deleted it. Yeah, like, forget about this. I'm just showing you the tracks I deleted because that's where we were before we went off on a tangent.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Then similarly, we have lead vocal 201.
Did you get the address? It's so nice out. It'd be sad if you miss this.
So as you can hear, this is really. So that's just clouding up the mix. The rest of these, let's see what this is. So all this stuff is just really messy. So that's all out. So what I ended up with vocals for that same section.
Nice out, it'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a springtime lover's fling. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. Get to the spot, find you leaning on.
All right.
Let's hear those vocals and everything. Let's hear everything for a second.
With what?
So we can get a.
Oh, on that same section?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Might need to balance it.
Nice out, it'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a springtime lover's fling. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. Get to the spot, find you leaning on the front.
Okay, cool.
Fitted Jeep.
All right, so like I said, I just took out all that 201 stuff. It's just really dirty, and also these room tracks. When I did this before, what I did was I made a global reverb, and then I sent everything basically to the global.
That's what we were hearing.
Yeah, well, not now.
Not now.
I'm saying that when I actually did this, I actually grabbed this stuff, other than this, and actually, you know, I would make a send to a bus, and then that would be the global verb.
Do you already have it now? Does it already exist?
Not on this,
Okay.
because this is a pickup from the last time we chatted.
Okay, I got
So
you.
I mixed this differently.
Okay. Do you have the other one handy that it can be played within this session, or is it a big ass?
No, but I
Just
can
so
set
people
up
can get
a
reference.
global reverb in 5 seconds. That's not a problem.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, at some point, just so we can kind of hear, okay, here's where I started, and now here's what I've got. Here's the improvement that we have.
All right.
And hey, Bill.
Yep, listening.
John Christopher over here is asking about that instrument that was low volume. He's asking, why did you delete it?
The vocal thing.
For 2 reasons. First of all, it was very dirty, and it was clouding up the mix. And second of all, I can do that effect myself. So, you know, they put it through a space echo, which is a reverb and a delay. I can do that myself, cleanly.
No, I was talking about the instrumental part. Before you got to the vocal, I was trying to get my Hangout stuff set up, and you were talking about that really soft, you know, the blue track.
The guitar thing.
Yeah, because that to me was a really nice part.
Where, here, this Kirk 201?
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. So was it just because of the levels, or was it because of, you know, just the quality?
Well, no. It was because, well, personally, it was because just dirty. So this is coming from, I renamed these tracks. So this is coming from these. Like, let's hold on.
See, I haven't listened to the tracks yet, so I don't know what I'm going to be dealing with.
Alright, so this guy Kirk played these guitars, right? He played a close, an overdub, and this space echo. So what I'm saying is, instead of using that space echo, which, first of all, you see how low this is, right? Compared to the rest of them.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so that's not really the issue. I'm just saying that I could take, you know, one of these Kirk things.
Right, and recreate it yourself, basically.
Exactly.
I got it. Okay.
Wait, that's not it. This one.
And this is what we were talking about on the last session, is you don't have to use everything.
Right.
Right.
So, you know, I could do this. Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. I can get my EP34, right?
Ah. It's pretty. That guitar is pretty grungy to begin with. A lot of.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I just personally, I didn't like how that particular 201 sounded.
Yeah, I agree.
So for me, it was better to get rid of it and have a clean track where, let's say I have these from my guitar.
Yeah, much better.
You know, and then if I want to add something in, I can do that. But I didn't want to use what they came up with. See, so that's why I took that out. It's just I didn't feel like it was gonna work.
Right.
It wasn't gonna help me, and the only way it was gonna help me is if I did a bunch of EQ on it. You know.
Right.
I was gonna have to do a bunch of filtering to it. Same thing with the room tracks. The room tracks were just buzz, buzz, buzz.
Yeah.
What I did here, I sent everything to bus, what is it, 6, bus 6. So bus 6 here, I can make this my global verb, right? And then I can get, what am I going to use here? Real verb, there we go. Mono stereo, or actually I should have used just stereo, but anyway, it's good enough for an example. Get a room, clean studio. Then let's get this stuff. That's interesting. Why is that playing? Alright. Well, but basically what I did is you just have all of these are going to bus 6. Bus 6 is this reverb. And then what you would do is you would send each one of them on their own to
I like it. Yeah.
Then over here it gets to your vocals. Let's see.
I'm starting to dig the tune more.
Yeah, it's like I said, this isn't a finished mix or anything, but it's on the way.
Fitted jeans, sports hat, and an olive t-shirt. Grab my hand, we step inside. Whisper soft, it's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a friend. Whisper soft, it's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a friend. Friends swaying side to side in New York City. And my friends swaying side to side in New York City. It's a springtime lovers' flame. Meet on the east side.
You know, so you get the idea. It's like you basically you make a global verb and you send the tracks to it instead of using the reverbs you were given. Does that make sense, Khaliq?
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. Cool. Anybody else want to chime in on that, or have any thoughts on some other approaches for that? And I see we've got we have Giuliano joined us. I saw you on camera for a second, but
Giuliano,
are you still there, man? What's up? And anybody else want to chime in while we're waiting to see? Okay, what's up, Giuliano? I see you texted us in. Do you want to get on camera? Why don't you get on camera and chime in on what Bill did or any of your ideas or whatever, and then we'll all bat it around a little bit to help others. Okay, you must be having problems with your microphone. So Yeah, Bill. No, that definitely makes sense. Now here, see, I'm gonna always look at it from several different ways as well too.
Sure.
So Bill made the choice, and I hear what's going on too. So there's two schools of thought on how to get to what the intention of this song is. So Bill and Mitchell was basically saying Bill's a fan of dryish vocals a little bit more, at least for this particular song. Some people may hear a whole different. Well, I mean, and I'll let you tie in on. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can continue with that, but like I said, this isn't actually a mix. I mean,
yeah. No, we're just talking about each step that we're hearing, the decisions and why they were made or whatever. So
yeah,
maybe you might want to explain where you're trying to go.
There have been a micro shifting on this. There's probably Cooper time cube. Definitely a vocal verb, probably a 140 plate. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do on this.
Yeah,
but
right.
No,
right.
I'm not a fan of. And even RS1, just briefly before you continue, you could take your
Age and my friend swings.
You can take your lead Vox and you could put your RS1 on it, which is here, mono to stereo, and then I'll roll the mix back around here.
Age and my friend swing side to side. Age and my friend swing.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back to the beginning. Hold on.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends.
And then I wouldn't actually do it this way, but I would actually use a send and return, but let's see.
So going to the why question, why are you putting that on? So people can understand why you're doing it.
The reason I would use RS1 is that it gives me early reflections, which early reflections basically give you distance between the element and the listener. So if I turn this back off and I go back to just the RS1, if I roll this further this way, you get just more reverb, and if I roll it back up here, you get it.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab.
You're getting more pre-delay, basically.
On 3rd and A.
More early reflections, yeah. And actually, wait, let me turn this off. You'll probably be able to hear it better. 'Cause this is actually sending to the room verb at the same.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A.
So what this does, I mean, like I said, again, I wouldn't really do that. What I would do is I would send up another send to another bus, and I would have this 100% wet on it. But just for doing this real quick, I'll put that on, 16, 19, whatever. And then the next thing I would do is micro shift it, which takes it far out, wide left and right.
Okay, and like I said, two things for me to address for everybody else, Bill. Why the early reflections and why the micro shift? What are you trying to accomplish with it?
Well, the why of the early reflections is because if you have it just dry, the vocal is right up front. The more early reflections you have, the more you can push the vocalist back into the soundscape.
And why do you want to push the vocalist back into the soundscape?
Because the other elements are back there already. So you might not necessarily... Huh?
Which other elements are you referring to? I'm trying to keep everybody on the same thing.
Oh, okay.
On the same thought process with you.
All the elements, depending on how they're recorded, are going to have a distance from the viewer based on what I'll call the time-based effects. So a lot of times you'll have guitars, like electric guitars, that are recorded very dry and they're panned hard right and left, and they seem like they're right up front with you. But then you might have a drum kit that's sent to a drum room like I just did, and because it's sent to a drum room and there are reflections or there's reverb on it, it sounds like the drum kit is further back in the room. So if you're thinking about it in a 3D perspective, early reflections on the vocalist or even the bass or whatever will serve to push it backwards in the room, as if you're sitting farther away from that actual performer.
So for what you're hearing in your head, you're thinking that the lead vocal needs to sit back further in the room compared to maybe some other elements?
I usually do. I was really just responding to Mitchell's point about the dry vocals. I wouldn't leave them dry, and they're not going to be dry in the final mix. But
right.
Yeah, I didn't feel like they needed it, but when you build your track, there's a certain depth to it. And then the question becomes whether you want the vocalist all the way in front of the track, or do you want the vocalist to be part of the whole musical landscape?
So for what you're hearing, for where you're trying to go, you think the vocal should be, and I'm just mentioning that you think the vocal should be set back. So I'm just mentioning this so that those of you that are watching and listening to us do this, everybody makes the decision of what was right in their head. So that's Bill's decision for what he is hearing in his head for a final mix. That's not necessarily. There's no right or wrong in this. You know, it's just that's where he's feeling to go, and he has a bigger picture in his head. You may have a whole nother picture in your head for when you're building it and working on it too. So none of us are saying that this is the way to go or whatever, because we all have a different sonic picture in our head as far as what the final thing is. Some people may want to have a real out front vocal and have other elements in the back. Some people may want to have them all kind of on a similar plane, the main instruments. So that's a decision and choice that I want everybody to recognize and realize that these are individual choices that you make in real time as we do this. So Bill's making these decisions to do these different things because he has a final picture in his head of what he wants to achieve for what he thinks is the final mix from his perspective, you know. So whatever yours is, always keep it in mind. You got to know, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to do this? So this is why I keep asking him, what's the why? What was your thought process? Where are you trying to go? And we're going to try to keep you guys with us as we do this because it's, you know, we hear it and it's done up here and everything, so we realize not everybody that's checking us out, it's perfectly clear to us what we're doing. You know, everything that is being done, you know, all of us, or at least most of us, know what's going on and are advanced enough to go what's going on. But we're trying to help everybody stay with us and see why, so that you can make the decision that's right for you. So this is why I'm going to play devil's advocate and keep jumping in every now and then and ask Bill, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Where are you trying to go, and what's the reasoning? So I hope you guys understand. We're moving a little bit slower because I think that's going to be more beneficial for you to learn from the points of thought process, as opposed to just moving through and saying, well, I did this, I did that, or I would do this or do that. There's a lot of ways to get there, like I said, so I think this is the helpful thing for us to do.
Yeah,
so go ahead, Bill,
you,
continue.
For me, at this point, this is second nature, so there's going to be a lot of stuff that I wouldn't even think to explain, so that's good. I'm glad you're asking these questions.
I was wondering if I could say something.
Yeah,
you know, you talk about the upfrontness of the vocal, and you're adding some effects to push it back. And when I'm listening to it, I kind of get that idea that there can be a upfrontness so far with the vocal that it doesn't even sound like it's in the same room, and it's abnormal.
That's the point. That's exactly the point.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where you're trying to go, Bill?
That's exactly the point. You're putting the vocal in the same room with the rest of the elements, but at the same time, you're not putting it necessarily in the middle of the room or the back of the room.
Got you. So I hope you guys understood that that's where his thought process is going for what he's trying to create is this final soundscape, you know.
So again, actually, just like this bus here is going to real verb, right? Then I would have made a second bus and sent it to my early reflections, even though this does have early reflections on it right here. But I would have one thing as a reverb, like a general room verb, and then when you want to move something inside the room, you use your early reflections. So then, as far as the Y of the microshift, in this case, what it should do is what I call decentralize the vocal, because vocals generally are right down the middle in mono. So if you, and again, this would have been on a send. This would have been a third send, 2 microshift, 100% wet, and then I would have brought up the fader to bring in the amount that I wanted. In this case, since I'm using it as an insert, I'm just going to use the mix dial. Let's see what happens.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in. It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at her command. Check my phone, did you get the address? It's so nice out, it'd be sad if...
Alright, so I'm going to play that again and bypass it and turn it back on.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at her command.
Hey, can you do some on and off in the mix?
What's up? Oh,
in the mix?
In the mix.
Yeah, alright, hold on one sec.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at her command. Check my phone, did you get the address? It's so nice out, it'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a springtime love is free. It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab
That's pretty cool.
on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at her command. Check my phone, did you get the address? It's so nice out, it'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love.
So you see what I mean? It spreads it out, and then really what you would do is you would put you put this on its own fader, and then you would automate it. Does that make sense?
Anybody got any questions for him on that?
Well, the demonstration seems enough. That's pretty cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. So yeah, but you know, I wouldn't actually have this as dry. But let's see, we could take this stuff and then we can try the 140.
3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at our command. Check my phone.
You might be able to hear it better with just vocals and drums.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at our command.
And then another thing you would do, for instance, with these 4,
It's 1 a.m.
I think it's,
to a late show out with all my friends.
so all of these are already routed to the room verb, so I can drag these.
To a late show out with all my friends.
So you can either have no verb on your backgrounds or a lot.
To a late show out with all my friends. To a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at our command. Check my phone. Did you get the address? It's so nice out. It'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a springtime.
So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff to be done on the vocals, but yeah, originally they start out dry.
Any questions, anybody? Okay, we'll continue on with your thought process, buddy.
All right, cool. So what I was saying originally was I started with the drums. Let me see what I'm doing. Yeah, that's fine. All right, I started with the drums, and then the next thing I would add would be the bass. And then Khaliq, you had asked about bass last time. So what I ended up doing was Sanam Satson, and then Nick Crow Tube Driver, and then Metric Halo, which I EQ'd it, and then after the EQ, I compressed it, and let's see what happened. Let me turn these off. Well, actually, I can start higher since I'm not mixing it. Hold on. So like I was saying the other day, Satson just gives you the toughness of the channel with the harmonics. Then you
All right,
have...
Bill, so let me do me a favor then. let's
Yeah, what's
always
up?
go back and go to the reality check, and let's hear it in the track and hear what it's doing, how it's helping, how it's
Got it.
working with the other instruments.
All right. It's a little tough since these aren't volume matched, so I'm going to turn it up as is without Satson, and then I'm going to add in Satson and turn it down. it's a little easier to hear again just with the drums, so let's try that. So again, the Y would be Saxon, gives it the toughness from the harmonics. Tube driver is adding drive, which is grit, or not really distortion, but kind of. It's basically, tube driver is similar to a guitar pedal. And then what channel strip is doing is it's emphasizing elements that I want emphasized, which is the bass and the finger part. Let me bypass those and listen to those. But basically that's happening before the compressor, and the compressor's on smooth. So what smooth does is it lets more transients through than fast does. So let's just listen to that one more time with this. Questions?
Anybody got any questions? What he's doing and why he's doing it? No.
I like it.
Cool. Okay, Bill, what I'd like you to do is okay, we're gonna go back and readdress the question that we have to ask, not just the why. Okay, so
sure.
What is the consequence of what you just did? So let's listen and hear what the consequences are, because everything affects everything else.
Okay, the consequences of adding this to the bass, that's the question?
Of everything that you've done on that so far, what is the consequences or potential consequences? Because like I want before you answer, I want everybody to aware of reason why I'm asking him this question, and we already discussed it, but this is for your benefit, is because when he does something, if he's already aware of that, okay, there may be a consequence of me doing this, and he's already aware of it, then he can make sure that he doesn't overshoot what he's trying to accomplish. So he's going to explain to you what's the consequences of what he just did, because everything affects everything. Go ahead, Bill.
All right, so the consequence of Satson is that the bass takes up more space in the mix. Let's call it that. And then the consequence of Tube Driver is that it by shaking the sound, without a better way to explain it, it makes it more obvious and makes it stand out more in the mix. And then once the bass is taking up more space and standing out more, what this EQ does is it determines which sections of the bass are making more sound than others. So leaving it flat would do one thing, but having this peak and this peak means that as it gets turned up by the fader, these go up first. So they affect these sections more than the other sections. So they'll affect, as far as the yellow, 71 hertz, and then as far as the blue, basically 1K. So part of what happens there is I need this, which is a high pass at 40 hertz, or else it'll look like that. The difference being these two, and the difference being it's going to start stepping on the kick. So let's see if we can hear
stepping on
that.
the kick is the consequence. Or let me put it a different way. Potential downside. That's the potential.
Sure. The potential downside is stepping on the kick. So let's see if we hear any difference. Actually, let me turn up the kick for this part. And then to exaggerate it, I could just move the high pass. You know, so you can determine based on the type of bass you want to hear in the sound, a song, where you high pass it. So let's say, let me see, I have my acoustics on here. Let's say I turn my acoustics on. So then, let's say I wanted the bass to fill the space but not necessarily reach all the way down to the kick. Then I would use my high pass for that. So you're basically determining where you want your bass to take up as much space as it can. So lower down, it starts interfering with the kick, but it also starts connecting the kick to the rest of the song. But then higher up, it doesn't interfere with the kick and lets it do what it wants to do, but it meshes with the guitars and has a different effect. Questions?
Cool. Anybody got any questions or anything? No. Okay, Bill, what I'd like you to do then, go ahead and take this last little part, and then I'm going to take over and show them what I wanted to show them.
Sure, yes.
But take over and kind of explain where, because like you said, this isn't a final mix or anything, but lead them to where you're trying to go with this in your mind, and show any other things that you want people to know before we switch over.
Yeah, my main point, briefly, is that you're going to end up with your submixes. You're going to end up with your vocals, your drums, your bass, your piano, acoustic, electric, synth, which, like I said, I just deleted the synth. The synth is playing the same track as the piano. It wasn't really, I didn't want to use it. So anyway, the point I was making last time is you can make a bunch of different mixes, and it's all up to you because, as Khaliq said, it's all art. So, let's say you started with your vocals. Alright, so you might decide you want to make an acoustic mix. Then you might decide you want to make a piano. Another point I was making last time is you can decide what you want to lead and what you want to be embellishment. So you can do an acoustic mix with electrics as extras or vice versa. The point being, as Khaliq said before, it's all art, and it's up to you how you want to put it together. That's about it. Mic check, Khaliq.
All right, this is really interesting. You know,
Any
I've
questions,
got a
Larry?
question. Yeah, of course. So, all right. Do you usually work? How do you work usually? Do you do more soloing of things, or do you do more in the mix tweaking?
Yeah, I do all soloing. For me, if I don't build it with a strong drum kit, I paint myself into a corner because I get to a position where I want something to be better, but the only way it's going to be better is if the drums are better. And it's too late because I built everything based on the weak drums. So I'll go basically in order: drums, bass, vocals, probably electrics, maybe acoustics, and then depending on what I'm trying to do. So, like for instance, let's see. I'm gonna leave the vocals alone because there's so much of it. Let's see. Let's turn all that stuff down, and we'll grab all this stuff. Pull this down. Okay, let's see. So as you see, there's like a ton of vocals. I don't feel like going back through that, but basically I would do this later, but I would just start with the drums actually. Let's see here.
And one more thing.
Yep.
When you started mixing, where did you start? At what point? At the chorus or something? Or?
That is a good question. In this case, with this particular mix, I started in the beginning because I wanted to know what was in the verse. But generally, I start with the chorus because the chorus is going to be the loudest section, and that's going to be where you're going to set up all your two-bus processing. So I'll normally start with the chorus and then go backwards. But generally, in this particular case, I wanted to hear what the verse was before I got to the chorus because I wanted to know what I wanted to not be there, so the chorus can be large in the verse. But generally, with the kick, which is here, and that would probably be somewhere green on the two-bus output. And then I would work from there. So I'd put in the snare. Then once I got the bass line, I'd probably add actually the lead vocals, but like I said, I don't feel like messing with that, so I'll just put in all the vocals. Oh, actually, the way this is set up, the verbs aren't coming down. Let me take out the verb, hold on. The verbs aren't coming down with the... There we go. So we'll go back to the dry version, but you get the picture.
All right. Thanks, man.
Let's see. That's pretty weird. But yeah, basically, what I would do is work the way across for the low end, kick through bass, then I'd get the vocals going, then I would go to whatever was the next important element, and then add the rest of it.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Cool, man. Anybody else got any questions for Bill?
I don't have any. Well, I'll wait. See if you guys have any questions.
Can you hear me now, Bill?
Yep, I got you, Ansi.
Cool. So, by the synth that did not use, did you mean the Nord?
Yes. What'd you do with it?
I kept it there, but I hard panned it to the left, so that because there's also sort of stuff going on in the chorus, so I just kept it low and just kept it there.
Okay, cool. What did you do with the piano?
In the verses, it's hard pan to the right, and in the chorus, it's super wide.
Why did you do
that?
that?
Oh, gotcha.
Well, because the thing is, if I could get my sound card to work, but apparently the Profile has some sort of problem with the Google Hangout, I could show you. But anyway, the thing that I did was that in the verses I used like so that I hard panned all the guitars to the left and all the pianos to the right. So and then I just narrowed it down with the BX Solo widener thingy. So it basically makes it kind of narrower, and then in the chorus I just bypassed it and made them super wide, and it kind of explodes easier that way.
Okay. So you're saying in the verse you had
It's 1 a.m.
Well, the Nord doesn't play in the verse.
I'm Saturday.
Oh, so but you still had the piano to the right in the verse?
Yes.
Okay.
And the guitars, which I think in the first verse there is only one plus the space for it, are on the left.
Ah, okay. So you had the
vocals are in the center, and then the background vocals are on the sides. So basically, what you have is that and the vocals are in the center, and then the backgrounds are wide, and then there's the guitars that are 50% left, and the piano that is 50% right. So everything has their own place.
That's interesting.
Anybody else got anything?
And what did you end up doing in the chorus after you did all that panning?
Well, in the chorus, the guitars and the piano like hard left, hard right, so that they are really wide. And then I took the stereo narrower. That sounds kind of weird. I took off the stereo widener off that was in the negatives, so it just sounds that like it goes from narrow to super wide.
Cool.
Anybody else want to chime in? Or if not,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was wondering, this is my first time on the playground, so I'm going to find out how much I can get away with, right? Now, I'm concentrating on that drum hit, that 16th kind of thing, going da, right? Now, can I cut that out and then move it to 30 seconds? Or is that illegal in this contest? To where I go da 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 da.
No, as long as you're using the same content,
right? As long as I'm using the same sample.
Yeah,
because I was thinking in that part right there, I was thinking, could I cut that part out and actually side chain it to the bass to get me some movement? Like, you know, when you're driving down the road, you get that movement. I want to side chain it to the bass at that point, not with the rest of it, but just right in that area.
Yeah, good idea. Probably an easier way to do it is just simply use a delay. pick up make it into 30-second notes, just using the delay.
Yes. Okay. Good.
You know, but or you can double it and just move it, you know, so that the double track falls in between, and then just filter it a little bit different so it sounds like, you know, there's a lot of ways you can do it, you know. But yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, the main thing is from that idea, and I like it, and I'm going to be talking about it in my thing, is propulsion into the next section.
Yes. Yes. Like a rise in EDM music.
Exactly.
Cool. Thanks.
Go ahead, Maude, if you wanted to. What were you going to say?
This song has been driving me crazy. Dre DeMos has been mixing it over and over and over and over and over. And you know, some of the mixes, it sounds like when it just comes on like something that's radio. But not once have I on anything, like I've listened to other people's mixes also, and I'm never feeling the song. I'm never connecting with the song. I don't even know what the song is about. And I've listened to it a whole bunch of times. And right now, as Bill was playing it, I was sitting there trying to catch the lyrics, and I'm wondering, does anybody even know what the lyrics are to the song? Because what I'm going to do after this is I'm headed to the studio. We're about to do this casting call, but before we do that, I'm going to sit down and write out the lyrics and see what's actually being said. Because I just heard when Bill played it, the lady said it's 1 a.m. And my question is, when she says it's 1 a.m., is she sounding groggy like it's 1 a.m.? Is she sounding drunk? And what should I make her, any decision I make at that moment, it would be based on what's supposed to be happening at that moment, like it's a movie. Like if she says it's 1 a.m. and it feels like she's supposed to sound groggy and it's dark, or and in New York, like what does that feel? What is that supposed to sound like and feel at that moment? And then she says it's springtime. So at that moment, springtime, you know, make it sound springy. And she said lovers, you know, in New York. What is that sound? That's how I would mix it. So all like when somebody's saying I would add reverb or this or that, I'm not even thinking like that. Those are tools for me to do the job, of course, you know, what Bill and everybody's doing. But I'm still sitting here trying to grasp what this song is. I don't know really what this song is yet. But once I figure out what this song is, did she put the emotion in it that I need for those moments? And it's a matter of trying to figure out what I'm supposed to feel, experience at that moment. And then whatever's missing, try to add that. But that's what's going through me right now. But anyway, that was my comment.
I can feel you on that. I understand where you're coming from. And this next section that we're about to get into, we're going to explore a lot of these issues because I think I can be helpful to both of y'all in that aspect and everybody that's watching. What I'm going to do on this next section is I'm going to take everybody back. We're going to go back to the beginning. So what I'm going to do is switch over to my Pro Tools session. I pulled this up in this song. I have not mixed it or done anything to it. I just wanted to see what was going on. I'm not going to be entering this contest or anything. Obviously, I'm just doing this to help you guys. And anybody that's checking this out, to help you think in a few different ways so that you can, you know, try to dig in and maybe improve where you're going. So we're going to do some mix forensics right now, digging in at a deep level. I'm going to show you probably the top 3 things that most people completely overlook from what I've listened to on here, and the mistakes that they're making. So I'm going to show you how to avoid these mistakes. So keep watching. You're going to get a lot out of this. And the way we're going to do it is by going back to a few basic things and see what's going on. I'm going to explain to you my thought process, but more importantly, I want to challenge you to throw out all the stuff that you've heard us say today, throw out all the stuff that you've read, all the tutorials you bought, and go to the beginning. Go to the bare essence and become just a music fan and just listen. Because this is where we're going to start. I'm going to switch over to Pro Tools, and then we're going to break it up, and let's deal with some stuff here. Okay, so.
All right, let's go.
Cool. And also before I do that as well, I want to show you guys something. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, and they want to reach out to me, or if they want to be notified of these hangouts, you can reach out to me on my email, or you can go to mymusichangouts.com and register for these, or you can go to mixingacademy.com, which I'm setting up, and I'm going to be doing that as well. I'm going to put that I'm gonna put something up here real quick and share my screen.
While you're doing that, I wanted to respond to Mott's point. I think it's a really good point about the lyrics. Because lyrics are not authentic at all. They're not authentic at all. First of all, if it's 1 a.m. on Saturday, that means it's Friday night. Second of all, if you're in a cab on 3rd and 8th, that either means, well, you're in Manhattan, because everybody, when they talk about New York, they talk about Manhattan. They're not talking about Queens or Brooklyn or something like that. So if you're in a cab on 3rd and 8th, you're either on 3rd Street and 8th Avenue or 3rd Avenue and 8th Street. Either way, at 1 a.m., there's no traffic, so there's no way you're going to be stuck in a cab. So for me, the lyrics are entirely authentic.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill, and why are you saying this, Bill? Because you live where?
In Manhattan. But I didn't even think about it until he brought that up. You know what I'm saying? Until he brought that up. I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, la, 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 melody, la, la, la. But now that he mentions it, no, it doesn't make any sense at all. And no, she doesn't sound like it's Friday night after midnight. First of all, we don't even go out until 11 p.m. Second of all, you're probably drinking since 7 p.m. So no, it doesn't sound authentic at all. But I mean, it doesn't have to because most people aren't from New York. But I'm just saying, now that you brought it up, no, the lyrics, the driving force there.
Yeah. Can I just
go ahead?
If I can be frank about it, there's a lot about this song that makes it hard for me to even approach. The sonic landscape. I think it would be the easy part for me, and the challenge in this song is the melody just doesn't get me. The lyrics are, just they're not grabbing me. The musicianship, the execution is not. There's just a lot of stuff that I feel like I would have to, massage to get to a place to where I felt like it was really starting to sound like it needs to sound. So and I'd like to try mixing this. So how do you go about getting that good feeling emotion about something when you're already out the gate feeling like, I'm not hearing this tune?
I totally agree with that. What's up, Joe? What's up, Joe? What do you think?
If you're not feeling the tune, you're just not feeling the tune. I mean, that's one of the things when it usually happens. You pass it on to somebody else, or there was a lot of things done to this track, probably for just the general purpose of just to see how well you were a problem solver. Is what I took away from just listening.
That's what I was telling them the other day. It's like y'all, everybody's making all these calls, but you don't know if this might have been done on purpose to see what kind of skill set are you going to pull out.
It was overly. I mean, I just loaded it, listened to it, and then threw it in the garbage can. It was over compressed. Too much EQ in the tracking process. It was just if I would have been seeing this, I would have sent it back and said, could you redo this, and this, and this, and call me when you get done. And not to be mean, it was overly bad. And
that goes back to what John was saying, which is that there's a lot of sound design you have to do on this track. A lot of sound design. Mm-hmm. And I said it last time. I was like, the bass doesn't sound like.
Are you gonna fix the? Are you gonna fix the drums? Are you gonna fix the drums because they're all over the place? Are you gonna fix the, like the kick? You could probably go with an EDM thing, going to a 30-second note thing, but I think the kick is too busy. I think it should be quarter notes or no more. So there's just a lot. That's what I'm saying about.
Fatiguing. It's fatiguing to do sound design on a song, and then you're supposed to turn around and apply your actual creativity to it. It's like you spend all your time fixing, and then you're like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Well, let me ask this question.
Exactly.
This is this girl. This is coming through IndabaMusic. Does this girl have a deal?
I don't know, but I bet she's from Chicago and not New York.
Well, very, very possible. Well, here's why I'm saying that. Usually, when they put a lot of these things up, these are from people that have made a breakthrough. They've gotten a deal. Somebody with some major dollars or whatever usually sees something in what they got. So if I was you guys and everybody watching and everything, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's in here, but what we got to remember is, first of all, we're hearing all this stuff in the context of a competition. It could have been purposely pulled out to challenge us and see what kind of skill set do you really have. You know, for all we know, this could be somebody that definitely got it in and has a deal, has everything up, but maybe this was the first incarnation, and they want to see, well, okay, if we got somebody that's really good, what would they do with this? Even though this ain't the final thing. For all we know, this may be done, mixed, and recrafted or whatever, but maybe it started out here. So, and many times I know myself and a lot of you guys, this is not out of the ordinary. I get stuff like this type of stuff all the time. I don't accept it too much anymore from independent things because, you know, I'm in a stage now in my career where I don't have to really deal with it as much, but it's not uncommon, and many times I still receive stuff that has all kinds of problems like this. Now this one has so many different things, and we're going to dig into these mixed forensics on this song,
right?
And identify them one by one.
We still have to bust tables, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah. Well, the bottom line is that we still have to respect where the artist was in their vision of hearing creating this song, what they may be hearing in their head, and we are interpreters, we are translators to get to that. So while we may have done a lot of things different and we prefer it to be a little more ideal, this is what's been given, and this is how a lot of people get it, you know. So it may have been given to them like this, or it may have been manufactured. All that doesn't really matter. The bottom line is now here's something with a bunch of problems, and this is stuff that guys have to solve on a daily basis. All of these things in a overall broad context of pulling off their vision, not ours. Okay, so this is how we're going to look at it now from the point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over and show you guys my Pro Tools, and then we're going to listen. And I posted those links previously to the Hangout, my email. So hopefully you guys saw that. I'll do it later.
Did anybody hear the guy that did that EDM style mix, kind of a ravish dance kind of? I think he had the hat in there. Has anybody listened to it?
I listened to a lot of the different ones on there, but I don't know who did what.
I actually really liked where he was going with it. I didn't think it would work that way, but he actually made it work. It was kind of.
Was that the Japanese guy you're talking about?
No. I wish I had his name. I should have. It was
a Japanese guy. There was a couple of guys that had higher. You know, they had like about 4 or 5 whatever stars or whatever it was as far as.
Right.
There was one guy, and I think he said it was something like that, a little more. So we may be talking about the same one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay. But anyway, can you guys see my Pro Tool screen here?
Yes.
Okay.
He's from Venice. The guy's from Venice that I was thinking of.
From Venice. Oh, okay, I got you.
California.
Oh, Venice, California. Okay.
Yeah.
Thought you meant Venice, Italy. Okay, got you. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now, I brought this track in here. Oh, and let me do one thing real quick. I brought this track in here, and I've got, put this back at 0. You notice I just brought it in. I brought the sound files in. Everything is mono, just up the center. I haven't done anything. Everything is at 0, except this. This is the reference track, and we're going to deal with this in a second. Haven't done anything. I just want to go through some forensics to listen to what did we get, what did we receive, and go through it. I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing and hearing, what my thought process is on some of this stuff, and I'm going to expand this out actually so that we can see some of the tracks. So the first thing that I did when I got this, I listened to the stereo track, and that's what we're going to do. Secondly, we're going to then dig into some of the individual things and see what's up. You know, hold on for a second. Somebody is not muted, so let me find out who that is. I think it's Bill. I'm gonna mute you, Bill, so that we don't hear you typing. Okay. All right, so let me go back and okay, I'm gonna show you. So what I'm gonna do is play this track here. This is what they gave us. And let's solo this and go back here. Be sure I'm at the beginning.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab.
Can everybody hear that okay?
On 3rd and A.
Okay.
Roll down the windows, headed to a
Turn it down a little bit.
out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at our command. Check my phone. Did you get the address? It's so nice out. It'd be sad if you missed this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a springtime lover's flame. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. Get to the spot, find you leaning on the front door. Fitted jeans, sports hat, and an olive t-shirt. Grab my hand, we step inside. Whisper soft, it's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a front view of the band on stage, and my friends swing side to side. In New York City, it's a springtime lover's flame. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. In New York City, it's a springtime lover's flame. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. Come on, kiss me. The music's right. Let's dance free tonight. In New York City, it's a springtime lover's flame. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. In New York City, it's a springtime lover's flame. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. In New York City, in New York City.
Okay, interesting now. So when I deal with something like this and receiving this, this is the very first thing I do is I want to listen to, this is the reference rough mix that they gave us in IndabaMusic. This is what the artist, the record company, and anybody else has been listening to. This is what somebody signed off and what they like. It's a good basic thing. So the main thing to do when it's time to kick this up to the next level is recognize what was in there that got them in the game in the first place. So to talk about what you were saying as far as what's this song about and everything, and Bill mentioning about the authenticness of New York City and everything. Think about it now. Let's all step back though, because basically all this song is basically some folks hooking up. Hooking up and have a springtime lovers fling, late at night or whatever. It could be any city, so they pick New York City and everything. Really could be any city. So that's one good thing, because there's some people that don't like New York City and some people that do, some people that have never been there or gotten to go there. So this gives them a chance subliminally to insert where they're at too, if they get the story. So the story though, within the way it's being sung and presented, is not clear. and that's the point that Mod is making. He wasn't feeling it because it's not clear and coming through. We're going to dig into that in a little bit, because then it becomes our job to make it clear, make the story crystal clear of what is happening. There's a little movie going on here, there is a story there. I hear it, and I hear bits and pieces of it, but it's not clear enough yet. So the job of somebody mixing this is to make that story come through clear, and then make it relatable where other people can insert their circumstance and imagine themselves in it, from hearing it. Okay, so let's check this out. And first of all, does that make sense what I'm saying on there? And we're going to talk about a couple other things, but does that make sense just from the overview of what I'm giving to you guys?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, now here's what I want to do now next. And somebody was asking what the tempo was. So that was one of the next things I did when I called up this track. I wanted to know, what's the tempo here? And it's interesting because the tempo is between 135 and 136. It's not exact. It basically starts out at 135, but the timing, like who was it, John or somebody mentioned it, somebody mentioned it. The timing's all over the place. We got these live drums, so it moves around. So at times it goes up to 136 and in between and all that. So, that's one of the things that if you want to get it on the grid and everything, you're probably going to have to go through the song and use Beat Detective or whatever you do, or manually pocket the whole thing so that everything lines up where it needs to be. Those are little things that I'm sure that in this contest they're going to be looking at to see if somebody did little stuff like that. The drums got some little problems. I don't know if you guys heard it, but little timing issues, and some of the other instruments as well too. But since the drums are the foundation and the basis, we've got to deal with that. So the first thing I'm going to do now is, in fact, on this ref mix, let me make this inactive. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. And we're just going to listen to this. This might be a little bit loud, so I'm going to go to the stereo fader and turn it down if it is. This is everybody here coming through at 0 mono. We just want to hear what kind of thing we got here, the way it's recorded, what kind of mess it may be or whatever, So, and in fact, let me pull this down, give us a little headroom. I can always push it back up. Let's take it down a bit. I'm just going to hit play and let it go through. as presented, as you can hear, it's a mess. Okay, now, but it told us a whole lot. Just see, I do this. This is an exercise that I do right away before digging in and doing anything. You want to know what you're dealing with, what's there. So first of all, what's very obvious is the levels, and Bill had pointed this out when he was mentioning it. The levels are all over the place, you know. And this, see, a testament of this is how, like back in the day when we were recording, you should be able to put all the faders up at 0 and basically have a mix, you know. Now with digital, it has adjusted because also you've got to optimize, you know, the bit rate and things like that, so that, you know, so this is not as necessarily as reflective as it was going through an analog console and through a 2-inch tape, but still the same basic kind of principle should still kind of be there. You should be able to just open this up and it should be kind of in the ballpark. The vocals are way too loud. I mean, too low. The drums are sporadic as far as where the energy is. The bass is way too low. You don't hear that at all. We've got a lot of different tracks here. The background vocals come in and they're unbalanced and everything. So there's a lot of stuff that we hear here that gives us an indication of what we may need to do. But right now, what I'm going to do is the exact opposite, though. I'm going to mute everybody here. And then the next step is, okay, I've got my information. Now I want to find, the next step is I want to find what's the core groove going on here. I've just heard a big mess. I heard a few parts popping in and out, you know. Don't know what the heck the song is dealing with, so I want to know what's going on. So a couple of things I want to know about, and I'm going to start with, so first of all, I found that, like, here's the vocals over here. And then I'm just going to put in the lead vocal and maybe one or two other things just to kind of hear what's going on, you know. And let's do that. And I think I'll put the drum in. So we put the kick drum. Now I'm going to put in the snare. See, now we got floor toms in there and rack toms and all that.
It's 1 a.m.
See, there's a lot in there. Okay, interesting. So I'm gonna mute the snare.
Saturday, stuck in a cab.
Let me hear the overheads. Overhead left and overhead right. So I've just got just the kick drum, overheads, and the lead vocal. Okay, and I'm listening. Okay, here when the cymbals came in, they're a mess. They're definitely overmodulated, very irritating and splashy. So I'll just make a mental note. Okay, now the lead vocals are in, and that lead vocal does not sing during the chorus, so it's taken over by the other vocals. And I see there's a little double vocal here. I'm gonna mute that. Or something, okay? We'll see what that is. Okay, so I'm gonna mute the lead vocal. Okay. So they recorded the effects. And we listen to the sound of that. Very mid-rangey, very thick sounding and all that. So the first thing I gotta do is ask, why did they record that? Why was that important to them? They recorded it, so it was important to them. They liked something about this combination of the sound. So I may or may not get rid of it, but I'm gonna have to think about it, see if I need to recreate it. Just making mental notes right now, doing forensics. Now the background vocals are in that section. So the lead vocals are back in, with the effects are recorded on its own tracks. So just the fact that they did that means that was important to them. So I can't discount that. Now I'm gonna go back over here to the drums. We got them toms. Them toms are very important. I'm gonna put the snare back in. Snare, we hear the snare It's important to the groove there, but it's over-modulated. Can you hear it breaking up? So we got to think about that and make a decision. Do we want to make that work for us? Because there's nothing we can do about it. It's in the sound. Now, let's go to these room mics. I'm going to mute them too. That's the room mics. So this is all the drums without the tom track unmuted. So, but that tells me a lot. Listening to just the vocals and just these drums, it tells me a lot of where this groove is. It tells me what I'm going to have to do to make the drums solid. You know, we hear, and Bill pointed this out earlier with, you know, the room sound. As soon as I put that in, super over-modulated sounding, nasty distortion, but there's a character and a quality to it. See, what we have to realize and recognize and always respect is that they put these things on here and they liked it. Something about what they liked about what they have here. So I am going to consider, okay, they recorded that room sound and it's still there. They did not erase it or whatever. So something about it that they like. So let me just keep that in mind. I don't like it necessarily. I think that's one of those things where I would say go back and redo it. You know, we got problems here and we need to go back and redo this. It's just not going to give you the best result. But that not being an option, this is handed off to me as a mixer. I'm going to keep in mind and respect, okay, this is what I've got. They've been listening to this. They like something about what's here. So I have to make this work. So, okay, I got that. So right now, the first thing I'm going to do is mute back out those overheads because I don't need that as part of the thing. Now, here's what I want you to realize, and I'm going to play it from the beginning again. And this time I'm going to unmute the tom track to the rack track. So I just unmuted the rack mount tom track. And then I'm going to mute it again. Now I'm unmuted. Okay, now before I continue, I want you to understand why I did that. I always get back to the why. Why am I doing that? And it's because, like, it's the same thing. Identifying what Bill noticed is you only got one track that says, you know, the rack toms and everything, but my ears are hearing a whole set of drums. So why is that one track in there, and why do we not, and how can we make that one track benefit us or not? Get rid of it or keep it? Okay, so when I was popping it in and out, what my ears were hearing and telling me was it's not making that big of a difference. There's more of the toms actually existing on the snare track. So that tells me a couple of things. I'm going to be using parts of the snare track to bring out those toms. Especially when I'm hearing that floor tom, I need the beef of that low end. So I'm going to have to extract it from these other drums as opposed to the drum that they gave us as supposedly representing the toms. It's really not existing in there but so much, but it is in there, so I'm probably going to need a combination. So I'm probably going to end up having to duplicate between the rack track and the snare track several different times and pull out the key elements, and then frequency limit those particular things to make them stand on their own when they are needed. But here's another important thing about this. All of these are part of the larger groove. So I'm going to play this from the beginning, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, one thing, now check out that toms. See, the natural thing that a lot of people did, and I noticed when they did the mixes, they listened to the kick drum and the punch of that kick 4 on the floor, but this song has an eighth note feel. Dun, dun, dun. This has got the Indian drums kind of thing. The toms are very important to this groove. It's got that little Indian thing going. Dun, 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 dun. See, and then dun, 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 dun. When they're doing that, that was accenting what she's saying in her vocal. Very important. Dun, 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 dun. Now drop into the chorus. Right there, that little thing those are punches. those little punches, whatever, that's a very important part of that groove. Now I'm listening to the drums and her vocal. Like I would teach you guys previously, every instrument needs to be able to stand on its own. So when we stripped out all that mask and mud and stuff, her vocals have a groove to it.
It's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a front view of the band on stage and my friends swaying side to side.
The band on stage and my friends swaying side to side. We're in New York City. It's a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side. Getting everything. So they're just hanging out, having a good time. Some folks in New York City, springtime lovers thing, fling, all that. But it could be anywhere. So they're just having fun. Okay, so let me stop that for a second and get to you. And plus, if anybody has comments in the thing, because I'm on here, I will go back and check the comments periodically. But if I don't answer something you're asking, this is why, because when you're presenting, I can't do them both at the same time. So I hope you guys are getting this. First of all, just got a ton of information from just this exercise. Just doing this by itself and hearing the drums and the lead vocal, you know, and I'm going to go back and open up and talk to you guys for a second, because to me, I can enjoy what I just heard. I can enjoy the story of this song right now better than I did when I heard everything in there, because I can actually hear what the heck they're talking about. And she has a groove going. I wasn't feeling it before. It was getting swallowed up, but there's a little groove. She's got the rhythm between her and the drums. There's rhythm going on. So let me go back to you guys and see what you think about that. Anybody want to comment on that? Maat, are you still there? Comment for me, because I know the vocals are definitely bugging you. Or anybody.
I would say what bugs me about the vocals isn't her character and quality. She's got a really good character and a really good quality, and that's probably what I would try to emphasize on her vocal. I would try to get it more up front and pull out more of that, the spirit that she captures with each line, because she's got some little things she does, you know, in the softer parts that are really kind of cool. And but when the whole track's in there, I can't.
You didn't even know half of that stuff existed in there, did you? She's got some little subtleties going on.
Yeah, no, I did, but I think I'm thinking of it from the end picture, and I guess that's why it's hard for me to kind of. I just feel like a lot of the stuff that's there is just so far away from where it needs to be. You know, how do you get that? Where do you go next with something like that?
Well, this is why
you got to do that. You know,
yeah.
I mean, obviously you take stuff all the time like this and you make it work. So you know, how do you go about doing that? You know, how do you?
Well, that's what we were saying when me and Bill were discussing earlier and everything. There's 1,000 ways you could go. That's the thing, and this is why I'm trying to get everybody to realize. And I think by the time we get done with this, you'll realize that there's a slippery slope that you can go sliding down out of control if you don't identify some stuff by doing some forensics up front to know what you're dealing with. She's got nice little things going on in her vocal. It's there. There's a hit song. Well, I don't know if it's a hit or not, you know, but this is a nice song. It's nothing wrong with this song. It's got a nice little generic message of, you know, springtime lovers fling, two people hooking up, going out and just kind of having fun. They're meeting up on the east side. And they're going around, you know, and just kind of chilling together. You know, I can see and visualize that. You know, it's a nice, easy, generic message. So, and then the way she's singing some of her lines and everything, she's got some little subtleties in there that for her style, I see that if we push the elements, it'll be cool. Now, as we deal this, you guys are going to start feeling this song even more. But it's amazing that stripping out all the distraction and just taking down to what's the core. Like I said, that's the first thing that's very important to identify in a song. This is the mistake that probably 70-80% of people make, because they don't identify what's the core groove that is presented to you. So right now, she had a core groove when she was saying dun 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 dun. She had a little bounce in her voice, and then the toms were bouncing with her, playing off it. Some of them were right with her, some of them were in between, and little things like that. So I'm taking all this in and hearing this because this is part of the core groove, that the foundation of this song, and this is what'll make this have a little bounce and happiness to it and make it start coming together. It's in there, trust me. Go ahead, Mod.
That rough mix, that was the first time I actually listened to the rough mix, and I felt that rough mix a bit. It you know, you pointed out the problems, but that's the first time. This is in all these years of doing this. This is the first time where I heard the rough mix, and actually it had an actual impact on me. Where I'm like, hold on, I see where they're trying to go. With this, yeah, because when the background vocals came in and took over on the rough mix, it added a feeling that was not in that lead vocal.
Yeah, right.
So when
that's
they were
the reason was, remember when we did at my music mixing success boot camp, we were talking about, when I did that one presentation, I talked about the handoffs, you know, like doing the bounce pass in basketball or the handoff in football or whatever. It's exactly what they did, because they took it over and they're singing the lead. The lead vocals kind of setting you up for the verses and leading into it. But New York City on the chorus is supposed to be big like New York City. You know, so that's why they did that handoff. The lead vocal could not carry that by herself. She has her voice isn't as powerful as the message that they're trying to impart.
And so but I know exactly what you guys mean when you talk about, or we talk about, listening to the actual rough to get an idea of what they meant, because there's information in there.
Yeah.
And that listening from a producer's standpoint, I hear somebody trying to do something with vocals that, without listening to that rough mix, that's not what I would have thought was supposed to have been done, or that they meant to do. But now listening to the rough mix after all of this, you know, going through these tracks, hearing what people have done, I'm actually hearing an intent, or several intention. Like when you're writing this song, or as you're constructing the song, I hear the intention there. So I actually feel better about the song now.
Yeah.
But still, everything I said still.
It still stands. It's very valid. You know. But you can see where they're going. There's a song in there. It's up to us to dig in and find out what it is, and not dismiss what they presented us. Because while they presented us isn't important, it's got some important information about that thought process and intent. Yep. Anybody else get anything out of just this exercise here?
I've got a question connected to the exercise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you find the groove you're looking for, would you try to mix it with only the tracks containing the groove while you disregard the others?
We're gonna get there. You're on the right track. So I'm gonna show you exactly what my thought process is, because, like I said, there's 1,000 ways you could go. So I'm gonna show you what's happening and show you how it affects me when I deal with it, and why I'm gonna go left as opposed to go right. You know.
And about the groove, my brain is sitting here. If that groove isn't right, I'll create the groove. You know.
Yeah. See, for me, the whole thing is I'm and Mod, you nailed it as far as when you listen to the rough mix. I listened to the rough mix first, a stereo mix, to hear what the intent is, and right away I wanted to figure out, well, what were they trying to do? Then secondly, that's why I listened to all the tracks together and did not immediately start diving in. I just want to hear what's there. Let me hear all the problems. They line it up and just see, okay, when this comes up, what all is there? Try to identify the things that I can barely hear. Let me listen in and see, okay, there's some other stuff going on. The stuff that's real loud. What kind of problems am I hearing just popping out and everything? Okay, I'm getting all this information. Now I'm going to break it down and build it back up. So, I'm going to go, I'm going to continue now. So we got just the vocals and just the drums in here right now. I want you to notice something as I do this exercise too. This song is going to end up building up and having a lot more feeling without me doing anything. because that's how I'm going to approach it. That's how I usually approach stuff. You know, I talk to you guys and tell you that a big part of getting somewhere is really mastering how to get levels and panning. That is a huge one that'll save you from doing 5 billion tons of processing and things like that. If you master levels and panning, you really can get right in the groove and get something that has a real powerful bass. It's many times it's an overlooked thing, you know. Now, gonna go back here to the drums, and I want to do one thing. We got the drums and vocal, and I'm gonna go here to these overheads. So I got overhead left and overhead left and right here. Have not panned them. I left them center. Why did I do that? Because I want to see, first of all, is there any phase problem? Because here's a thing that most people do is an instant mistake. They see this is overhead left, so they immediately do that. Overhead right, they immediately do that, and then they start listening like that. What I want to know is there any phase problems when it was recorded? I'll do the same thing with these room mics and all that. I want to know right away. So I'm hearing everything mono, straight up, and do I have it? Okay, so I'm going to play this track. And what I'm going to do is pull down. So I'm going to mute one side of the overheads. And I'm going to put it back in. Mute the other side. Put it back in. Okay, now several things occurred with what I just did that gave me a lot of information. First of all, you know, just muting in and out each side of those things, but leaving it in mono, told me a couple things. First off, the overhead right channel has more of the floor tom in it. You know, you can hear that low end resonance on this side as opposed to this side. You can hear it more. Let me do it one more time, and you guys listen for that this time. So they're both in. I'm gonna mute the right side. Now listen to the low end, the resonance of the tom and the kick down there in the low end. Now I'm gonna put it back in. Now I'm gonna mute the other side. Now I'm gonna put it back in. It affects it, but it didn't affect it as much. So the right side is carrying more of that low frequency information. Tells me a lot, because it tells me whether or not when I process this, am I going to need to do something that splits out the bands in the low end, like use a mono maker type of thing for those low end things if I want to leave it in those tracks, or do I want to filter out any of the low end on these overhead tracks? Tells me a lot of information right there just from doing that simple exercise. Here's the other thing I'm going to do when I play that. I put this one band EQ up here, and I'm going to unbypass it. It's not doing anything right now. So I'm not changing, I'm not boosting or cutting or anything. But what I'm going to go over here is to this polarity switch, and I'm going to hit it. See that polarity switch, so the low end left. Now I'm going to put it back in. Now you hear the low resonance again. I wanted to do that to be sure that these things are in phase and have the right proper polarity. Go ahead.
Have you got the plugin on a different screen, because I'm not seeing the polarity button you're clicking?
Oh yeah, that's right. With this screen share thing, it only shows the Pro Tools window. Let me do that real quick and see if I can get it, because it doesn't show what I'm seeing. I'm seeing it, but it's only showing you guys the mixer window. But for example, I can see the mixer window, the waveform window, and the editor window, and the plugin. So that's kind of a limitation of the Hangout itself. But I can switch over to that to show you the plugin for a second. Hold on. Screen share, and then let me find that window. Actually, I don't see that particular plugin window. It didn't come up. All I'm seeing is the mix window and the edit window. So I'm just going to leave it like that for now. It's not important because you can do this with anything. The main thing, all I did was, let me go back to screen share. But the main thing that I did was I just put any plugin that has a polarity reverse on it, so that I can check to see whether it's in or out of phase. It doesn't matter what plugin you use. That's just an exercise because I'm doing forensics to get information. That's all I'm doing. Let's go back here and get this back on the screen share. Okay, so anyway, that told me a lot right away about that particular thing. And so the overheads have been recorded in time. Now I would do that same exercise on these room mics as well to be sure they're happening. And I'd be thinking plus in the room mics as well, they've got to be time aligned with the overhead mics and all the other mics. I got to be sure all that stuff is happening. I'm not going to get into that on this thing, but I just want to mention to you that this is how I would check to see whether the frequencies of different things are boosting and enhancing the overall thing, or are they killing some of the stuff. Now with these room mics, what I'm going to do, in fact, let me do this real quick. Room mics. Well, let me do the overheads first. I'm going to just group these real quick so that I can pull them down as one thing. Let's see, this is going to be overheads. And do that. Okay, yeah, that's all I need. Let's do the rooms. And let's do this. The room mics, I'm going to pull them down for a second. Okay, now the room mics I'm playing, they're not in, but I'm going to sneak them in. Let me pull them in. Hear them adding the room. Taking them out. Okay, right in here when I start getting in this area, I don't know if you could hear it or not. The mics are recorded cool. They're fairly in phase, but there are some issues that I'm hearing right away with some cancellations, some comb filtering and everything, So what happens is when you put room mics in or any kind of microphones in a room and recording them along with the dry signal, you have to follow what's called the 3-to-1 rule, basically. And it's not an exact science. It's a listening science, using your ears to get it. And they basically got it right, but because it's enhancing when I put it in, I don't hear too many of the low frequencies leaving, but I do hear a few things canceling out when I push them up, especially when I get in this area here and when I get fully up. There's different things in different areas that you're hearing cutting and messing with what we're hearing on coming through the overheads and the other drums. So those are time align issues, So what I may want to do is consider putting something on here like the IBP tool by Little Labs or something like that, or maybe even just selecting the tracks and try nudging them forward and back, a few frames here or there. I'm just keeping that in mind as a possibility. Right now, it's not enough to make me even want to do it, but it's a possibility. Now, for me, I hear why they recorded this room sound. The dry drums are cool by themselves, but when you add this in, here's a character. Listen to the character that comes in. Not too much, just a little bit. When they're all up here, it's too much. But down here, when I sneak these in and start getting that character in there, I wouldn't want any more than that, but I'm considering that, and I can listen to the drums and be okay and know that I can still make the rest of them punch out. Like I said, this is without doing any processing, just getting levels in the part where they need to be. Haven't even panned them yet because, like I said, I want to check phasing issues and all that. So now what I can do is I'll go ahead and do the overheads and the room mics and pan them, go back and listen.
Mind if I chime in?
Yeah, go ahead, chime in.
Yeah, I was going to say that you also have to remember that with the phase issues, the thing is, if you want to use ambient mic with anything other than the 2-to-1 rule and 3-to-1 rule, which are both different ambient rules, the thing is that if you put them to exactly the same level as the close mic source, it will be out of phase no matter what you do. So the thing is that you need to use them at like lower level so that they sound basically natural, what I would call. So you have the ambience like naturally lower, so it won't be affected by the phase issues.
Absolutely. You know, that's one thing too. This is why, like I said, I checked everything at 0 first, and then once I know they're okay, bringing them in and out, muting them in and out, because that'll tell you if you're hearing cancellation when they come in and out and it's at 0, that's telling you it's out of phase and it'll cancel all the frequencies. So once I've ascertained that the mics sound good, they're okay, they're still following the rules okay and everything, then I want to slip them in and see where they're going to be, because you'll never get full cancellation if you're less than 0, you know. So that now becomes a thing of, okay, why did they record those room mics and why did they keep them? So it's a character thing. They wanted that room mic sound in the drums, you know. Several ways you could get it. You can manufacture it, you can use reverbs, and you can use parallel compression through the reverbs or super squashing things. There's a lot of different ways you can get it, but the natural drum sound itself of the room, I can hear why they recorded it, and it adds a character to the drums. So they obviously like that character. So what I'm going to do is defer to them and say, okay, I like that character too, but I don't like it as loud as it was when it's at 0. I don't like that. I'm hearing too much crap creeping in there. And plus I've still got in mind that I'm going to have to deal with these cymbals on the overheads when they come in, because they're going to be all over-modulated sounding and just naturally irritating sound. So I'm going to have to think about it. I got to tame all these. We're at the intro right now. We're not at the power part of the hook and everything. So right now it's just about, okay, let me shape the character of the drums. The character of the drums to me is this drum. What sums up these drums are the toms are a big part of it. The room sound gives it a little bit of the live thing, and I attribute that in thinking of painting the story as New York City is alive. You know, when you think about that, anybody that thinks about it, that's a place where there's life and liveliness and all that. So okay, I can leave that in there to kind of subliminally suggest that through the sound, you know, as opposed to making it just dry and punchy. But at the same time, I can reserve it, because in the end, I may say, okay, you know what, I don't like that at all. I don't think it gets the best out of the song. Mute. So that's a decision I'll save for later. But right now, I can leave it in there. I'm okay. So I'm going to go back and play some more now. And then we're going to move on to some other instruments and check it out. Because what I'm still trying to find is the core groove. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys. Now, did you hear those toms stumble? That's something else that they're probably going to look at. Most people will not fix that. But, you know, if you want to really go all in on this, you would fix some of those timing issues that are in there. So that means you've got to group all of these drums together before you do any editing, or else you'll knock them out of phase. See how them toms are accenting the lead vocal? That's important. And notice the rhythm of this song. Like I said, the 8th note pulse. The 8th note pulse. That's the the main part of the song. So what I'm going to do now, traditionally, you want the bass and the drums to work together. So I put the bass in, barely hear it. And we saw in the waveform it was low. Let me go back and listen to that again and just see how this bass and these drums are working together. So the bass is playing now. I'm like, dang, okay, I just heard a little more on that second note. That's popping out a little more. But that ain't nothing. So first thing I'm gonna do is just use level. Let's hear what's going on. Turn that sucker all the way up. Okay, so it's a drone. So now what I'm listening for when I'm hearing this, I just use levels. I pushed it up to hear what's happening. Do I still have a groove? And I say, yeah, but I'm gonna pull the bass down a little bit because to me, the bass is just kind of weight. It's not that important to the actual song, so I'm gonna pull it down just a little bit because I still want to hear the vocal message. Okay, now I'm gonna mute him out. Listening to the vocal and the drums again. Got a cool groove. Let's put him back in. So I'm hearing when I put him in and out. So we can hear some frequencies fighting each other down there in that low end. Between the kick drum and the toms and all that when I take that in and out. Okay, let me stop this for a second. So with the kick drum and the low stuff that's going on in there, and I haven't even gotten any of the other stuff in, we already got some fighting going on frequency-wise. So I have to start thinking, and I'm mentally just making these notes. Where am I going to start? Where am I going to start making room for who's going to carry it down there? So to me, right away, my mind is telling me I like the drums and the vocal by itself. There's a groove there. When I put the bass in, now I've got to fight. So I've got to resolve that fight. You know, I still want the bass to be in there, but I got to resolve that fight. So I know that I had a basic groove with those drums and the vocal. You know, I'm gonna put a few other things, and I may change my mind later on. But to me, as I said, I felt okay. I could pull the bass down a little bit. It wasn't like the bass was doing nothing that dramatic where I needed it. And we'll check the other part too. We're about to go into the chorus here, so we'll see if that changes later on. So the decisions that you might make may be section to section as well too. But for right now, I'm keeping the drums as the core groove, adding that bass in and kind of making it there, thinking about how I need to process it, because obviously it's too low. I don't want to have to boost it 12 dB just to get it heard. So I'm going to go back and do some other stuff. But I see that, yeah, okay, when I boost it, I can hear it. It can be in there. And so I can process that, but it's not that important for me to have to worry but so much about it. Okay, so now let me go just a couple other things, and let's continue. I'll see how it plays in the chorus. See what that kick drum has doubled up. That's an important pulse. And then the snare accent. But the cymbals are splashy as heck, just kind of irritating back there. So how am I going to make that happen where I can still have that and tame them all out? Okay, now we're back down into the groove and the straight four on the floor again. Okay, so obviously for each section we've got two completely different feels, you know. So you know, I'm probably going to want to set up loop points to be able to work on the work on the verse rather, is one thing, and then have a whole nother mindset. So when it transitions into the chorus, I'm gonna work on that and loop that and know what the handoff is going to be between the two things, because they're two completely different feels. The sonics need to be different. The space needs to be different. Okay, but I'm just making mental notes right now. Forensics, we're doing forensics here, you know, and all this is before adding anything. Now let me go in and listen to some of the instruments. In New York City. Here's what, let's see. So that's acoustic guitar. Let's listen for it. Not bad. What problems do I hear? Some thick low end, mid-range, low mid stuff that I'm gonna have to address, because that's infringing on the vocal, but it's okay. That's a nice thing. Okay, so let me mute that back out and go. So we got another one. I think this is just a double of it. In New York City. This one has more beef here. Different thing. Okay. So that gets in on the low end. I'm thinking about all that. It's getting inside the low end there. So I've got to control that. You know, you can't have too many masters going on. So you got to make decisions of what's going to carry. And between these two guitars, which one is going to carry the low end part of it? If we're going to spread them left and right or somewhere in between or whatever, which side does the dominant one need to lean more towards for the sound stage, and how do I balance it out on the other side so that you don't have lopsidedness? Okay, so my mind is just thinking all this, but let me mute it back out, because what I'm hearing now is when I put that acoustic guitar in, the biggest problem, like I said, there's a consequence of everything you do. I put that guitar in, right away now I can't hear the vocal. So, it's going to happen, but what I want to find out, what's the best case scenario for the vocal, what affects it the least, what's going to get me to the core groove.
In New York City.
Okay, so I'm moving on to the next one. Let's see what this is. Ah, interesting. So we got an eighth note guitar here. So we put it back to 0. Actually, let me do this. I'm gonna move him. Move him over here.
In New York City, it's a springtime.
Okay. All right. So that tells me something. Now check it out. I'm gonna go back to the beginning now and listen to that. That guitar part that's in there. It's not bad. It doesn't conflict with the groove too much. It seems to add a pulse to the weight. So let me listen from the beginning and make another decision on it. And here's another guitar here. I'm gonna bring that one in too and just kind of see what's going on with it. Okay, so this swell guitar, I'm just checking out and get some information from that too. Some clashes with it, but it's not. It's out of the in and out of the way on the way it's designed. So hear the frequencies that it's boosting and where the problems are infringing. Now the other guitar is going to come over. Oh. See, I like that. Okay. So that told me a lot right there. We've got a basic groove starting to shape up here between just those two guitars. Now in the verse, that one low guitar that just came in, it's kind of weird and murky, so I would have to do something to get that out the way. It was bugging me. But when it came into the chorus and everything, we had this other guitar here that was doing the eighth note pulse, and then this one was playing the high arpeggiated lick. So kind of cool, little hook there. So and those both were working. Now I noticed the bass was going here. So let me go back to the beginning for a second. So I'm gonna put it down. So check out what happened here. This guitar is in here. That note is the root note. The bass changed. So what I would do is edit this note to tail off on this so it doesn't conflict, because that note is dragging out and holding over the chord change. There's a clash there, because that other note is not really in that second chord. Fade it out. See? So that gets it out the way and it keeps it clean. Little stuff like that makes a whole difference in how the song grooves. Whereas if you leave it in there, you just leave it in and it goes to that next one. All this mess here, mud. You guys hear that? And little stuff like that adds up. But let me get to so I would go in and edit that individual part to fit that groove for the verse. But by the time we get to the chorus, and let me go back here to the chorus. Let's see. I guess it's about 50 something.
York City. It's a springtime lover's lane. On the east side.
Now I'm gonna play with the panning and see what happens when I move it to one side or the other. See, now why I'm doing that is I'm playing with the panning because frequency-wise, we already got some stuff in here that's happening. We got some thickness happening, but one side is going to be affected more than the other or less than the other. So there's a best panning place for things like this where it'll make it stand out, where you have to do less EQ. Okay, so that, you know, this is one thing that I'm going to determine, and I like those two things that I'm hearing right now. But for now, what I'm going to do, oh, and let me mention one other thing about this guitar here in the verse. So this one's doing the pulse. See, so that's the drive of this chorus and everything, but when I'm thinking in terms of that, okay, we got that and we got the bass. So this to me is the drive, and the bass should be the weight. The bass to me is an extension of what this is to pulse the song. It's going to be more weight as opposed to a bass note per se. It's going to be bass weight more so than anything. It's kind of an extension of that. And there'll be some other stuff as we bring in some of the other keyboards and all that that'll be part of how to make. This is how you go about thinking about making sounds big, making the chorus big, is knowing and identifying what's the core groove to make the weight of the groove settle down and get big and everything. Okay, so let me go, let me move on. I'm gonna move a little faster because I can't cover everything in this song right now for today. When we do the next one, we'll dig in further. But I want to show you that there's so much information you can get just from simply doing volume and panning and turning things off and on and see what affects the groove, you know. Now there's another guitar part here. Let's see what this is. Okay, so that's working with this. Interesting. Let me split them for a second. So we got the harmony pulse there. That's interesting. That's a nice part of the groove. That's an engine. I tell you guys the concept of having an engine. That's the engine right there. So we got to remember that. That's an engine. It needs to be widened out to get it out of the middle like this. It needs to be split off. An engine driving that. So very important, you know. Which one goes on which side, not sure yet. We won't worry about that right now, but we've identified it though. So these are important. In fact, I'm going to move this one. I'm going to move this track next to this other one so that I remember that these may work as a pair, you know. Okay, so let's go to the next thing, and I'm going to mute these back out for now just because I want to identify some other stuff. In fact, I'm just going to leave these two guitars in. So that's the piano. Now I'm gonna mute it out. Here the other, I think this is the other side, I think. Yeah. It out. Okay, so that told me a lot. Got another fight here. It's setting down the groove, but we got to fight as soon as we put it in. So it's needed, but it's covering some areas. It's causing some problems. Okay, there's a consequence of everything. So if I put that in. So let me just keep moving on and identify a couple of the other things. In New York City. See what this one is. I'm hearing there's a whole lot of mid stuff. Let's see what's happening. Okay, cool. All right. So those kind of set down the grooves. They're all on downbeats and everything. So they set down the groove, important and everything, but it ain't that big of a deal right now. I'm still searching for some magic here. There's no magic in that part. It's something that's in there. When it comes in, it can cause some problems. So let me move on. See.
In New York City.
Okay, so we got two here. Let's see what this is. I think that's the Nord that you guys were talking about. So it's another thing. It's just kind of sitting down the groove. So all of these sound like they're kind of working together. Not really nothing earth-shattering and everything. So I'm going to go away from that for a second. I know what it's doing. It's kind of adding some weight in low-end, low-mid stuff and all that. But, you know, I can tuck all that stuff in the appropriate place. I'm still looking for some magic here. Let's go over to this
In New York City.
See what this is. So that's some kind of keyboard effect. I guess that's on. It actually sounds like that might be part of what was going on one of these that was over here. That sounds like that actually from the guitar, huh? Let's see what. Oh, Kirk Space. Yeah, so that is from the guitar. Okay, so I'm gonna move this over here. I think that was something that Bill had checked out earlier as well too. So I'm just going to move this over here, but keep it muted because it's a lot of crud going on that may or may not be needed. You know, that might be one of those things where you can, like I said, may recreate it and get a better thing. But it's interesting to me to respect that they recorded it for a reason. They like that. They like the sound and the texture that it's adding. It may not be the perfect thing to give them the most power, but there's a reason why they added that quality. They wanted that guitar to have that kind of ghostly kind of thing in there. So that gives me some more information. Let me move on to it. And I'm gonna push up these vocals a little bit more. We definitely got to dynamically fix these vocals. They're all over the place, dynamic range-wise. We got to even them out so that we don't lose the words. Doubles there, okay.
In New York City, it's a springtime lovers fling.
More vocal stuff over. So I'll deal with that stuff in another thing. Right now, I'm trying to see if I got the core groove. So I think I've got the identifiers, and then I just have to pick out of these keyboards which one sets it down more. Let me check some of these. I think these are all background vocals over here. I didn't put them in.
In New York
Yeah, these are background vocals.
It's a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what that was. Okay, so the guitars are real important here. That's what's kind of carrying what's going to be the main hook. So now, at this point, you know, I can make some decisions then. So the next thing that I would do is then, okay, once I've got all this basic information, and of course I would continue that same process on and get the vocals kind of blended together now compared to the lead vocal and the main hook, all these other supporting background vocals and stuff like that. I'd kind of find a good place to them. But as far as the main core groove that we have here, the important things are the drums. The drums are playing that little, like I said, the Indian tom-tom thing. That's important to the groove. So I'd want to accent and fatten that up and pulse it. and make it bigger. Bigger is always going to be better in something like this, and bigger but not cloudier, bigger and just powerful, you know. So there's a lot of things to do, and identifying what this thing is as far as a basic groove is important, and then the rest of it, the stuff should start growing in to make it grow and not cloud. As soon as you add something and it starts clouding it up, you've got to catch yourself and say, okay, I'm losing my basic groove, and that's where these pianos are going to have to be fitted in. These guitars need to be fitted to work with each other, to work with the drums, work with that bass, and get it all in there. That's then and only then would I start getting getting everybody in the kind of good thing, so that when I pull this up and play it without anything, keep in mind, like I said, I have no pans here, I have no effects other than what we just did during this thing like this. We can get a good basic strong groove from just that. Once we do that and we start processing, imagine how this thing can grow. Okay, so with that, I'm going to take a break and come back to you guys for a second to see if you guys have any questions for me.
Not really. Only question I would have is, when you want to grow it, how do you go from a mono only mix to stereo? You pan them out and then.
Yeah, that's when I would start breaking it out then, because like I said, when I get it where it's cool now and everything is good and powerful starting here, and I haven't done anything, it's like, okay, now let's find the space. So I was playing with the overheads. First thing I would do naturally is go overhead left and right, and then make a decision like you did, Bills. Decide, well, what perspective do I want to hear it from? Do I want it from what perspective was it recorded from? Firstly, was it recorded from the audience perspective, or was it recorded from the drummer's perspective? I would assess that and determine, do I want to keep that based on several things. I would listen to the other tracks. If this, for example, was a live track session where everybody was in the same room, then changing the perspective is going to change how the other mics may pick it up. So for example, the bass mic, guitar mics and all that, if they were all in the same room, all the leakage and all that can totally create some other things if I did it without taking those things into consideration. But that would be the next step, and start panning the drums out. I would separate out the drums like we were talking earlier, as far as, since this, to me, for my approach, the way I'd approach it, this is the toms and the kick are driving this song, like I said, the Indian type of groove that I put in there, or to be more politically correct, Native American groove that you think of when you hear it on TV, the tom-tom kind of thing and all that. And then when it gets to the chorus, it's that syncopated that type of thing that the snare is popping on and all that. To me, I would break those out and make sure that everybody's doing it, but the toms are going to be the key for the verse leading into that. I'd probably be duplicating some tracks, find out within the overheads where those toms are living within how the track was recorded, and how I'm going to play it back, make the other things come in and fill and match them, fill it out with EQ, control it with dynamics, some type of dynamics thing, and do that. Then the next thing I would do is, like, we brought in the bass when we were doing forensics, but I would actually not bring in the bass as the next thing. The next thing I would bring in would be the vocals, the lead vocal, and then the background vocals, and then start spreading them out to see how they fill up the sound, the sound stage from left to right, along with the drums. And then I'd bring in one of those core instruments. I'd probably bring in the guitars and the piano, but the piano, like I said, since it's just kind of playing what we call them goose eggs, they're just kind of laying down on the one. To me, I bring in the other things that are solidifying the basic groove and making it come out, but then sneak the piano in to make it solid and fat. Start thinking about which pianos do I want to make wider or bigger, or if any. Which guitars do I want to make wider and bigger. All the guitars, we got 5 different guitar parts, I believe. It's really only 3 with 2 effects, actually. So I would decide, do I want to keep them all mono? Do I want to keep maybe one mono and the other ones stereoize them up? Do I want to do mono to stereo plugins? Do I want to do Haas effect, where I'm running something and widening it by running it through a delay and using Haas effect techniques to simulate a panning scenario that's different than using the pan knob? Then do I want to run it through any kind of stereo process, effects processor get the to blend it in with the sound stage, thinking in terms of that I want to blend everybody else. I want the drums to have a live sound to it and everybody else to carry on that live room alive type of sound. How do I want to do that and make everybody come together? I'd start putting together my auxiliary tracks to do sub mixes, and so it'd have the drums, then have the guitars, have vocals, have effects, have any other little things that you want to do on separate auxes so that they can all come down and get their own processing and work as a group. But that's how I'd start spreading it out now. I start thinking about where things need to live sonically in the sound stage based on what the core groove told me. There's certain things like, for example, that those cymbals, for example, in the chorus. Cymbals are real splashy and sizzly. I know I'm going to have to tame them with some kind of different processing, but still not lose the crack of the snare being in there, not lose the definition of some of the other things. And so it's a balancing act. And once I do that, I realize there's always a cost to everything that you do. So how do I get back what I lost and not reintroduce the problem? So for example, knowing that I have to tame those cymbals and pull down some stuff, they're going to lose some of their sparkle and sizzle that I may need to have the cymbals to have for clarity and everything. So I got to start thinking about ways of doing that. I might use some enhancers and things like that. I may use just simple widening tools to move the upper frequencies wider and farther out the way, but that way they can kind of be there and add the sparkle, but they don't get in the way of real sonic content. A lot of ways to spread that out, Bill, from here, but I'd always keep asking myself and going back to, did I lose my core groove? What is the core groove that needs to be there? I build this core groove up, spread it out from the guitars and the keyboards and the drums compared to the vocals, and get just that as big, as powerful as I can, and everybody else is secondary to that. The moment I start sneaking something in and losing clarity, losing power, losing drive and groove, I start rethinking it and say, okay, let me mute it out. Okay, what happened? Well, what happened with what I just did? Okay, I see that. Okay, let me think about it another way now, because that's not doing what I know it needs to do. Does that answer your question, man?
Yeah, definitely. Very cool explanation. I'll be watching this again as soon as we finish.
Yeah, it's so amazing, and everybody watching us here, we're just giving you a lot of different tools. I'm not saying my way is right either. I'm basing all the things that I'm telling you on a lot of experience over the years, but a lot of experience also from what I saw my mentors do when I was making a lot of the same mistakes. And then they tell me, no, here's what's happening when you do that, because I would go right off and just start doing some stuff and not thinking about it, So then they give me some things and say, usually simple is going to be the best way to be a jump off point. You can get complex, but you got to keep in mind, they only got complex when they had to. You got to keep in mind that there are a lot of great sounding mixes that occurred long before we had all these plugins and all this other stuff, So how did they do it? Great mixes didn't just start now because we got 1,000 choices. People made it because they made decisions, and many times the simplicity, because they didn't do things when they didn't have to. It wasn't necessary. So you got to see what their main groove gives you, and only do stuff as much as is needed. There should always be a reason why. And the biggest reason why is to always serve the song, always serve the artist, always serve the production. If you keep going back to that, that's why I said, and the other thing that I would do is I keep going back to the rough mix and listen, okay, let me hear what they got in here now. And in fact, we'll do that in a second too. We're going to go back to the rough mix. We're going to notice what they got in that's kind of good and can be kept, notice what's missing, and see if we uncovered that, the elements are there in the track. I've heard a lot of stuff that's in the track when I started seeing the multi-track that was like, I'm not hearing in that rough mix. Okay, I can grab that and enhance it. I can make that happen. I can make it clearer. I want to point out one thing about the lead vocals too. The lead vocal has its own internal rhythm. So enhancing that, but yet keeping it, because even though it has its own internal rhythm, it's not apparent, it's not driving the song. The vocals getting swallowed up by the track. But really, for this song, needs to be. Bill made a good point too, because you can have a vocal way in front, soundstage wise. You can have them kind of right here with everybody on the same part. You can have them in back, subservient to the track. I tend to believe that the vocal needs to be kind of on the same plane with the driving forces of maybe of the guitars and stuff like that are propulsion. Like I said, those are propulsion mechanisms. You know, they're driving that eighth note groove. That's the energy of New York to me. It's like so the vocal doesn't need to be like a big R&B vocal that's right real loud and in your face. The track needs to sound powerful, strong, thick, from frequency range high to low lows. And we've got them there. We've got them, those toms. As I say, it's important to keep those toms in there. So when they hit those, we hear that stuff down here as well. You know, we got the kick drum doing the punch. So that's the punch. Somebody mentioned like going into the transitions. Could I double up and all that? You know, yeah, you could do that because that propels it from verse into chorus. It's a propulsion mechanism. So absolutely, if you want to try to propel it, you could do that. You know, the song does that. That's like, you know, I'm getting in my car and driving away on the streets of New York City. You know, whatever. However you want to envision it, there's got to be a sonic story that you're painting for them. You know. Anybody else got any questions? And I see we've got we lost a few people. I thought we had some new people here, but if anybody got any other questions or whatever, hit me up, and then I think we covered a lot today.
Yeah, that was a good explanation. James, you got anything?
Everybody good? Okay. If
I
everybody's...
like, I like the rundown to where, you know, you just build up the fundamental elements, vocal, get the rhythms, find out what they are, add things to support that groove, that advancement of the whole song, always keeping the whole song in mind as you do that, not to lose the idea of the song. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's very valuable. This is one thing that a lot of people forget to do. They want to dive in so much to use all the stuff that they have, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, you got to always keep, you know, I have to do it. I have to constantly do it and remind myself, because my natural inclination is, okay, you know, I'm hearing these drums and all this stuff, so my natural inclination is to go in there and just kick butt on all these things because I got so much in my toolkit. But I'm like, okay, I need to understand what's going on in here before I go too far along and start going down a rabbit hole that I can't get out of. And then suddenly you're working hours and you thought you were on the right path, but then when you listen back to the mix, something's gnawing at you. It's like, man, this ain't quite right. Something, it just ain't there. I have that still happens to me, and it happens to the best of us all the time, but it happens to me much less now, when I always keep making myself go back to the basic core groove and the basic idea, intention that the song had, and what the artist wanted for the song, you know. So the last thing I want to do before we leave out of here is to go back to the rough mix and just listen to it, and then now with some of these forensics we've done, we can see why they did certain things they may have missed, and what we could do as mixers and producers. We're doing all this. We're mixing, we're producing, we're engineering, we're songwriting, and putting our different hats on to understand this process for the next thing we do. So I'm going to go to that. Go ahead.
As we listen to this again, I want to listen to it without thinking about that new $40 plugin I've got. I want to use on it.
Good idea. Yeah. And I've got so many plugins, man, and sometimes it's you know, it's really hard for me because, you know, you want to justify your purchases and all that. Like, I got to use all this, you know, and there's a time and place for it all, but you just have to know that you're not doing it just to do it. You're doing it for a definite reason. Some things don't need to be touched, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back here to this song, and then I'm going to play it back. Anybody else have anything before I play it back? No. Okay, let me play it back one more time, and then we'll talk about it one last time, and then we'll see what's up.
It's 1 a.m. I'm Saturday, stuck in a cab.
See, I would make those toms a lot more evened out.
On 3rd and A.
That should be that elf note pulse is important. We're losing some of them.
Now that winter's over, the world is at her command.
Got some thickness happening with that piano in there now. We should have a little bit more of that 8th note pulse leading us into the chorus now. You didn't even feel that build-up. I want to feel that build-up going into this chorus. It needs to feel dramatic. See, now there's a handoff there, so I keep it in mind that we got the acoustic guitars on this part for the second verse. Nice handoff. So there's some thick stuff still happening with those pianos and these other things that are in. I guess there's some strings or something like that. I don't want them to fight with that guitar and the drums. This second chorus should be a little bigger than the first chorus. We got those strings and all that. And the background vocals, I make them wide and like that. And how they go down to that note, I found a way to drop it. Swell it. And I find a way to drop them into that last note. And then that guitar, little hand off, that little lick is nice. And then it hands off to the acoustics. And the music is right, so it just adds a mood here. Almost feels like a clock is ticking too. Time is just moving, it's late. That guitar, I would want to hear more of the strings so I can get the percussion out of the strings. I'd have to treat it like that. Now that downbeat should have power. And the downbeat didn't have enough power on it. And this pulse should be even more. This should be massive here. That 4 on the floor should be driving a lot more, feel harder, pulsing. When you hear those crashes back there, I should want to hear them and feel them, but they're so washed out, they're not clear. So distorted. And you're not feeling that snare, that pop. You need to be feeling that. That's not cracking. See, and then that build up at the end, that should have and it's just relaxing. It just, you've gone through a whole thing, and finally you can exhale and be like, ah. There's a lot. The song is in there. The song is in there. There's a lot of power that can be put in there. A lot of stuff that can be done. Right now, for the reference mix, it's just kind of sitting there flat. You see, once it gets to that first chorus and second chorus, it never grows. But this song should always be growing and building and getting more powerful as we go along. Is that helpful to you guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay, well, I think we could probably wrap it up here today. We've gone 4 hours, so that's a good amount of time. And you know what? Before I do that, let me go back to one thing real quick. I want to show you one last thing. I'm gonna go to the waveforms, and let's see that for a second. So you guys can see my waveform screen now. Okay, yes. Cool. So just looking at this gives me a lot. This is another part of the exercise that I would do. This gives me a lot of information just looking at what's happening. Bill identified a lot of this at first too when we were on the last hangout as well. So we see that things are dramatically different. You know, I'm looking at this snare here and seeing all this stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in between. So I'm like, what is all of that? You know, okay. So we heard it, that, you know, the spill that's going into here. Then this is the rack track. So the rack track has less spill than this snare track, but we already identified there's a lot of elements within those two. But let's go back in this kick drum track. We see the dynamic range is all over the place and everything. So we're going to have to think about how do we make that solid throughout the whole song. It needs to be very solid, or else we're going to lose energy in places where we don't need to do it. The overheads, when we were just listening, but we identified it. Remember, I was telling you one overhead was carrying some stuff, and we can see this here. This right overhead right, look at the waveform compared to overhead left. You know, so that means how the microphones were placed and how it's picking up the kick drum and how it's picking up the floor tom and everything. There's more energy, more low end stuff here. So we've got to find a way to distribute that between both of these to get that so that it doesn't become a problem, or else your sonic your stereo mix is going to start leaning and you won't know why, especially when other things start adding to this, because this is already here in the recording. You know, you got to decide what times when to pull the mono part, the frequencies below a certain area, pull into the middle, and the other ones can spread out. And we can clearly see that here. If we look on this snare track too, oops, sorry, let me go back here and pull this out. So looking at this snare track, of course we see the snare hits here, you know, stuff in between. This little stuff in between is important too, depending on what it is, depending on whether it's spill from the other things. But the snare was doing ghost notes too on the snare. He was doing little ghost notes. Those are very important. We need those without enhancing some of the noise that's not needed. So it's very important to recognize that that's all part of that snare part, along with spill from the toms and spill from other things. We still need those ghost notes. As I said, there'd probably be a lot of editing where you would separate out this track, duplicate it, and get the best of what you need for each element and have it on its own thing so that you could process it. Okay, and oh, another thing too, look at this snare track too. This snare track, it's interesting because clearly, look at there, it's clipped. We got flat tops here. Look at them flat tops. Clearly clipped. Okay? So, and we heard it. We could hear the snare was breaking up and all that. We got to decide what we can do with that. Can we make that work to our advantage? Because now that we know it's there, you know, we may have to process in a way to account for that so that we get the clipping sound out, but still hear the attack, the front end of the snare. We have to hear it, but you see it carries through a little bit too. So when you see that, it's like, look at that, just clipped, chopped off. It's going to sound nasty. So knowing that, little problem, like I said, they were so clever in choosing this song because this song really has a lot of little engineering things that have to be dealt with, you know. Look over in this thing here, because that looks like we may have a part that got clipped off there. Not sure, because it might just be how I'm viewing this. No, that's okay. Well, let's move over here for a second and just see if it's I think it's not going to be too bad. It's right up there though. Yeah, that right in this area here. That's right at the edge. That's clipping all as well. So that's gonna affect how this track sounds, the quality of that sound, you know. And also something else that is interesting. See, yeah. There's something else that's also interesting, and I'm going to show you on another track too. But I'm looking at it partially on this track too. The interface may have some issues as well because, let me see. Let me go down here, or a couple of channels on the interface. Let me take a look at some of these. So what I'm looking for here is to see if we've got, and I'm trying to reach for the term now, I just had it. Basically what I'm saying is where the waveform is uneven because there's one, it's hotter on one side of it should be basically the waveform should go around the center line, but if it's way below or way above, trying to think, what's the name?
Got the offset.
Yeah, DC offset. Yeah, DC offset. So a couple of these have the potential of having some DC offset in here too, so that may have to be repaired. Not, all of them basically look pretty good, and there might not even be in there, but I noticed a couple of tracks look like, oh, that might be some DC offsets. So for example, when you're putting compressors on that and everything, because of one side reaching it differently than the other side, and these are mono tracks, keep in mind, when I say one side, I'm not talking about a stereo track, I'm talking about a mono track that has one side of its waveform hitting on the polarity more than the other. That affects how things are triggered when they kick in. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of point some of these things out. The snare has some serious problems here. You're going to hear that, so that may have to be fixed and accounted for. We can clearly see in some of these other things where they had some problems too, some volume problems. We were talking about riding some things, so you may have to take some of these tracks out and manually draw when some things are happening. We got to look for things like attacks and releases. Be sure everybody's starting at the same time. These are pretty good, but you clearly see there's a couple of things that may be slightly in front, slightly behind. That's to be expected with live stuff, but you just got to be sure that the right things are in the right place feel-wise and listen for and identify. Be sure nothing is really far out. Here's something that that's Kirk. Okay, that's that guitar effect, but you see the waveforms here starts after the beat, where the other ones are actually starting slightly in front of. So, and if they're not starting exactly at the same time in relation to some of the other ones too, oops, get that off here and go here. And then if I move down to some of these other tracks. Okay, so those are all lined up pretty good, the front attacks. You got to look for something that's clear. This one here is clearly more in front. And this is the Nord. You see where the line is flashing here? This Nord starts in front. That might be okay, but we just got to be aware, attacks and releases compared to everybody else are very important too. You may have to fix up and align some of these things to be in line. That Nord is coming in ahead of the beat on that particular place. Kirk's parts, some of these things are ahead. I think that's an acoustic there or something. So I'm just kind of looking at them, and like I said, we're doing forensics, because some things are spot on, other things are a little ahead, other things are a little behind, and part of making your groove tight and clear and everything is identifying who needs to be where they need to be, and if they're doing what they need to do. Okay, let's go down here again. Those are pretty good, but like look at these three here, and I'm right here on this track with the green. And then I go below it. That's lined up pretty good at the attack. That's insignificant, but this one's kind of way in front. What is that? And is it going to make a difference and affect my groove? I may just need to nudge it or something like that. Maybe. Not saying you have to, but just being aware and looking out for stuff like this. Okay, anyway, that's good enough. I just wanted to kind of point that stuff out. I hope this is helpful to you guys. Join us on the next Hangout. Let me switch back over to you guys. Join us on the next Hangout. I want you to join us so that you can get in with us and benefit from these. Those of you that are watching the replay of this and everything, if you got some questions for me about some of this and the process, hit me up at Khaliq at Khaliq-O-Vision.com. I will show you again my little email, or get on the list so that you can let me see it. I'll show it right here so you can see this. Here's my email address. My email address is here, and or you can go to mymusichangouts.com and get on the Hangout Notify list, or you can go to mixingacademy.com, and I'm putting that together as a site where I can house all of these things and do some additional tutorials. It's not built out yet, so you can get a free gift there, but it's not ready yet. Just want you to check it out. Okay, and guys, I think that's about it. Turn this off, and I hope to see you on the next one. We're going to dig in a little bit deeper now. When I get to the next one, what I'm going to do is I'll balance out this track a little bit more. I'll show you how I'm thinking in terms of sound stage. Bill mentioned about where we're going to put this stuff out. Well, I'll break out some of this stuff and tell you why I did it. I'll tell you, like, for example, the guitars and everything. Some of them I'm going to spread out. Some of them I won't. Some I'll move left, right, and I'll tell you why I'm going to do them. Based on where I'm trying to go in my head and what I hear for this, and give you some ideas to kick off your own method of making this mix happen. Want you guys, whoever's out there and is ready to win this, I hope you're ready to win the Pensado Awards, and come on and keep hanging out with us, and check you guys out next time. Anybody, any last things?
Nope. Great explanation. Appreciate it. Like I said, I'll be watching this again soon.
Cool, guys. Okay, everybody have a wonderful day, and I'll check you out on the next Hangout. Go ahead and join us at mymusichangouts.com.